Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia.
Here we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. I'm your host, Dagan Dagster Moriarty. But listen, I'm not here doing it by myself. Let me introduce you to my little helpers. First, I got my littlest helper over here, my boss, my brother, Colin Chowderman, if you're nasty, Moriarty, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, Carl?
It's good to be here with you guys. We have, what a diverse array of people we have. We have a European, we have an African-American, we got a special ed student, and we got me. And we're all here and we're ready to go. It's good to be here with you guys. Good to see you guys. This is a fun combination of people to be with. And yeah, I'm feeling good. Just playing a little drums before we started. And
very nice.
And yeah, ready to get going. Ready for the weekend since we're recording on Friday.
Always,
as we always do.
Kyle, I prefer special ed master. Once I was the special ed student.
Yeah, right.
Now I am the special ed master.
Right.
Let's get that straight.
We remember, like in Brookhaven Elementary School, that because if you were like a good reader or good at math, or whatever, I was in it. It was called enrichment. And in hindsight, that sounds like special education. Like if I told people I was in enrichment, I think 9 out of 10 times they'd be like, "Oh, okay, we understand." Wink, wink, wink.
Did I ever tell you, like when I was growing up in the 70s, I was in that once in third grade, like where I was like considered like the advanced reader, and I felt so proud of myself. But they would definitely let you fly that flag and like brag about it and make the other kids feel like
totally.
They were.
Totally.
Right now, I think I told you with my oldest, when she was in elementary school, she got that sort of accolade where she got put in like the special reading group that was like advanced. But the tone of the email was so cryptic that we didn't know if she was remedial or advanced. The wording was such that they didn't want to insult the other kids. It was so diplomatic that Helene and I had to ask the teacher even after gleaning the language of the email, like, I don't understand if this is bad or good.
Yeah, it's like Ted Knight says in Caddyshack, the world needs ditch diggers too. Which is an amazing line. And what an amazing Judge Smales, what an amazing character, by the way. Of
wasn't
course.
Wrong.
I never slice. No, totally. I totally understand. And it's funny because I remember the way the books looked, like the special math book and the special reading book. They had this very 80s 3D graphical kind of thing on it, and just plop them on in third grade, plop them on your desk. Be like, "Oh, what's up?" Just gotta, get pulled out of class. Got to go do my math. Got to go do long division.
You got to get that swagger.
Yeah. See you guys later. It's not like that. I don't know if you look at the statistics with the Department of Education going away. They've released a lot of statistics about like what has happened since the Department of Education has gone away. And it's just that everyone's gotten way stupider. So people read worse. They do math worse. Like, so we're just
good shit.
We should listen. I think it's great to obviously you want to treat children well, want to be equitable with them, but you gotta boost up the smart kids. It's pretty clear who's going to be smart pretty early, in my opinion. The kids who were smart in first or second grade were the kids who were at the top of the class when I graduated from 12th grade.
Yeah.
12th. So it's like definitely put a little rocket in their ass and like, whoa.
Oh my.
Straight to it.
Oh my God.
Dagan's like, come again. and boost them towards the front and boost them towards the front and make them understand and know that they have a gift. Like that not everyone is as gifted, like, and you need academically gifted people.
Fair enough.
It's good. I think it's good to celebrate that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
but I say that as someone who was academically celebrated, I guess, until I discovered marijuana in high school.
Yeah, that was it. That's how. Enough about America.
Yeah.
Let's go over to my holding it down guy. He's holding it down for LSM in Europe. I think easily my favorite friend in Belgium, the mighty Lockmort, even if you're not nasty.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Wonderful to be here with you guys. Of course, I'm still not speaking Russian, so we're doing fine so far.
And without America, you'd be speaking German.
Apparently, well, without us, well, to be fair, without France, you guys wouldn't even exist. So
I know. Dude, it is so funny you say that, because Mike and I were just talking about that a few weeks ago about like, you got to give the French credit for the revolution. You know, like you got to do it. We wouldn't have won without them.
It's true.
You want me to put a rocket in your ass?
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, sure. always up for that. But you were talking about what you do, what you guys have in school, like with your different. What is it called? Even you have different classes for different kids, because we don't have that here.
Oh yeah, well, normally in a normal high school you have like honor, you have AP, which is like college level.
College level, yeah.
Honors, which is like elite level for high school, and then you have like your normal classes that most people go in, and then you have like what would be like remedial. So, and you spread apart based on subjects. So when I was in high school, I was literally in AP history, AP English, honors like chemistry or whatever, and then remedial math. And like, so you just like spread the whole gamut of, and you're put into these specific things. AP classes are useful, advanced placement, because you get college credit for them if you do well.
That's such a different system than it is here. Because here they let the kids pick. Like they let us choose what we want to do. So if you want to be a doctor, you have to study Latin in school, like the dead language Latin.
Oh, that's cool.
That'd be awesome.
Not the Latin American thing. Yeah. But they also give like the idiots like me, they give like the choice, like just do media or something, and then you get to watch TV shows instead of studying Latin. So that's also really fun. But we don't really make a distinction because we don't have those college points that you guys have. Oh. So everyone here can go to college if you just pay for it, I guess. But it's not as expensive here either. So it's way easier. But lots of people here don't graduate college because of that.
Yeah,
because everybody goes, but almost nobody finishes it.
Everyone knows someone that when they went to college as a freshman, where I knew a few people where I'm like, oh, you're not long for this world. Yeah. and then you never hear from them again after that first semester or that first year.
That first semester.
Not that it's hard. It's just I believe that I say over and over again, most people shouldn't go to college. I don't know why most people even go to college. And people say, oh, it's easy for you to say, you went, and it's like, yeah, but I also know, and I'm thankful for it. I met a bunch of people. It was a cool experience, but I don't think it had anything to do with anything that happened afterwards.
Well, for you, it shouldn't be required. It depends what you want to do. I like what Locke's saying about the pragmatism of the European system, or at least in Belgium, because there's a lot of like, we don't need to spin our wheels energy to that. Mm-hmm. Like trying to force a round peg into a square peg into a round hole, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But that still goes on. I feel like everybody's going to school. In my daughter's graduating class, I mean, she goes to a good high school, so it's kind of to be expected. But I feel like even a lot of these kids, like, why are they going to the schools and why are they going to these specific schools? A lot of them don't know. I just know in her friend circle, like a lot of them don't know what they want to do exactly. She's kind of an anomaly in that she has a lot of direction with where she thinks she wants to go. But you know what I mean? At 17 years old to put, you know what I mean? It's a lot. It's a lot. What about high school graduation rates? In Europe, though, Locke, how does that look?
Everybody graduates. I don't know anybody. I don't know anyone who's ever quit high school.
Wow.
Yeah, don't know anyone. High school but high school is also pretty hard here. I found high school harder than college. In my case,
I did too. But I agree with that.
I think somebody once told me. I don't know if this is true at all, but somebody once told me that our high school education is like your university education level. So the stuff we see in math here is stuff you guys never see in high school.
Dude, there is now a remedial math course at Harvard. Did you guys see that?
No way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where it's like, wow. Does anyone know how to do math? I never knew how to do math, so I'm not embarrassed about it at all. I hated math. Could give a fuck.
Yeah, me too.
That's interesting.
I could do algebra and everything before that. Very easily, obviously. But anything after that, I'm like, I don't even know what the Pythagorean theorem and it's like geometry and trigonometry and calculus and stuff. It's like, what? Don't we have computers? Like, why do I need to?
Why do I have to figure this?
What is that? Math. What bothered me about math, and I remember this so fucking well, dude. Like, because it's so funny. It's so Colin is like, word problems. I would try to answer them sometimes with a paragraph. of like, this is kind of like what I would think to do. And they're like, dude, that's just a math equation. Like, what is the answer to the math equation? And I would try to like squeeze my way out of it. And I said this too at Northeastern, there was a math course for humanities majors because you had to take one math course.
Yeah.
And you had to do like one science. And I did astronomy, which was like which was literally physics 101. And I was like way over my head in that too.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't do calculus or anything. The math class was basically like a communal thing. Like it was just like, yeah, just cheat. You know, like everyone do tests and group. Literally, we do tests in groups of 5.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It was literally to be like, just get the fuck out of here.
That's such a waste of time, though.
Yeah, it totally is. It's like, why are you making us do this? It's like people that just are like want to be like, you know, historians or whatever, you know. And then when you do grad school, you got to do statistics. And that was the thing. I was going to do that my first semester when I didn't end up going because I went to the IGN, as everyone knows, but I was going to just try to get out of the way. And I was like, I'm going to be fucked by this thing. Like real statistics, not like looking at the standings for the NHL.
Right.
You know?
Actual statistics. Yeah. Stats.
That's a subject that everyone has to take here in college. Statistics, and it starts in high school already. And I hated that too. I was terrible at it. And the only reason I passed it in college was because we got these little cue cards he had to pull, and one of my friends made like a little belt in his cue card and gave me the question beforehand, so I knew I had to pick that card, and that's how I passed it. Otherwise, I would have never gotten my master's, never. So that's the only reason.
Wow.
I don't want to shit all over American education, though. To be fair, I think secondary education is pretty bad in the United States. But and that's a systemic thing. It's not like an individual thing. The teachers are trying. The students, I think, are trying. I think there's like something deeply broken. Dagan will know more about this maybe because I think we've talked about it in the past. But like the entire idea of how like they just broke how everyone learned how to read like 25 years ago for no reason. And there's a whole I've recommended it many times, like a whole radio documentary about it, like 6 parts. About how these people are like, no, what you want to do is you want to like guess, you know? And it's like, dude, we've been learning how to read like this for thousands of years, like syllables and phonics and shit like that. It was a
big struggle.
And so they fucked it all up. It's the same thing with this math shit where I see on like TikTok videos that are shared on Twitter where it's like, here's how people do math now. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Like, I didn't even know there were like other ways to, and it's like so complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
And the parents couldn't really help because they learned a different way. I think the new reading thing is incentive to teach your kids to read before they get into preschool, which my kids were already reading pretty well at 4 years old. That's all the more incentive to sit with them with books every night because that's how they get it. You know what I mean? It's just through osmosis. But I'll tell you this, Kyle, the Harvard thing is a relief in hearing that they're offering remedial math because you may be in an Ivy League school because you're brilliant at something else.
Totally.
I always felt like you and I were an anomaly, though, even in high school, being like in advanced classes in some things. Really, the only thing I was personally advanced in was English, you know, as far as the AP classes. And then like Colin taking like idiot math. But I always felt like I was the anomaly. Like most kids that were bright that I went to high school with were bright at everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's an interesting point. Like the kids that I was in that math class with were not with me in AP literature, AP English literature, or whatever.
Right.
Which, and it was weird that but I really wasn't good at math. Like, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like when things are hard, I don't care about them. Like only things that come naturally to me. That's why I'm a good writer is because I don't think about it. I just do it. But math, it's like, oh my God, like
it just flows.
PEMDAS. You know, remember that? PEMDAS?
No, I don't think I got that far.
It's like, what is it like? It's like exponents. It tells you the order that you're supposed to like combine numbers if they're presented together. And it's like parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, or whatever. So yeah, maybe you didn't get that far. But what I was going to say was, and I said I didn't want to shit all over American education, and then I just shit all over it. Is our collegiate system is second to none and is a completely dominant force in the world. There's no college system in the world that has anything on the United States.
Yeah, true.
And it was years ago now, so I don't know what it looks like now. But at the time I looked, it was probably 6-7 years ago. 36 of the 50 top schools in the world are American. Yeah, and we only have 4%, including I think all 5 top spots.
I didn't think I knew that.
And we've said this before too. It's like our healthcare system is pretty bad. The outcomes are pretty bad. It's really expensive. We also have most of the great hospitals in the world and pretty much all of the doctors that are because they teach at our various
various
universities.
Never thought of
and that was another thing. This was for a Collins Last Stand video, I think, back in the day. So that's why I was like 7-ish years ago. I was looking at all this stuff. It's like we have like most of the greatest hospitals and the greatest minds doing the greatest research at those hospitals, often international, coming to us because they want to work here. And so it's such a shame that we have like such a strata where you have to achieve a certain something to get the Harvard level education. I would have never gotten into fucking Harvard. Never. Dagan knows Yale was my dream school when I was a kid. I let go of Yale late in high school. I'm like, this isn't going to happen for me. I didn't even apply. Like I just applied to Northeastern, which is also a hard school to get into. And I probably also wouldn't have got into without a little help from mom, although
that is
and I by the way, I should be clear, and I believe her. It's like she didn't do anything for me. It's just that there is she wouldn't have been able to, like that, even if she wanted to. She didn't know any of those people. But they're like, when you apply to these schools, like it's definitely like, oh, did anyone that we know go here or work here? And it's like, yeah. They call that legacy systems, and that's something that they're trying to make illegal, which I, as a staunch believer in nepotism, as I've said many times before, in my own world, like my own company, my own life, it's like I'm deeply nepotistic, and I look at that as not only family but friends. It's like I definitely,
of course.
When I needed theme music for the shows, I was like, I'll go to Ramon. Like I'm not going to like go shop this around. With other institutions that are grander and touch a lot of different people's lives and are not necessarily public, but whatever. It's like, yeah, maybe it's not fair. I think something like a material percentage of people that go to Ivy League schools are legacy students. Right. Like it's like 30% or something. That's crazy.
Is that right? That wow? I never knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, it does make sense. I could see it both ways with the nepotism thing, especially in that. Like, I think it's earned. You know what I mean? At a certain point, it's like maybe those people should get a leg up if it's in the family and. It's a generational thing. Like
if your kids wanted to go, well, we know where Lil's going, but if Lil G wanted to go to Northeastern, he would get in 100%. Like there, as long as he was like somewhat competent.
Right.
He would definitely get in.
Yeah.
Because he would be like my grandmother and my uncle both went here. And that is a thing, so.
Sure.
It exists. It exists.
I would take advantage of it if I if I were out there looking at that stuff. It's like, you should use all the tools in the toolbox. Until they make them not available to you.
Exactly. It's almost the equivalent of like, who as a hiring manager at a specific job or something.
Sure.
People, you got to utilize all the tools that they have to accelerate themselves or try to advance themselves.
Yeah. It's interesting. We haven't introduced Cog yet, by the way.
Yep. I know. Listen.
Sorry, I took over.
We know that voice, the sultry, the dulcet tones of that voice. Every time I look at this guy, I think to myself, I think badly about myself is what I'm going to say. Not working out, not exercising. You need to get on it. You need to look a little bit like this guy who takes excellent care of himself. Smart, handsome, smooth as butter. Smooth as butter. Lord Cognito. What's up?
What's up, man? I'm doing good, man. My presence was not meant to shame or guilt trip you.
It inspires. It inspires me, man.
It should inspire me.
Thank you. That's it's our fellow gamer brethren, just trying to make us stop being sedimentary, and staying still and doing stuff. But I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just hanging in, a lot going on, and just trying to keep my head above water with all the busyness of stuff that's going. But good busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Busy is good, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I guess it can be bad, but I think it typically is good.
Yeah. I've learned now, like, because my time is so fleeting, like now I can't respond to a bunch of messages anymore. Like my new thing now is the voice message feature.
Oh yeah.
To send someone a voice so they can hear my thoughts. I didn't forget you because I don't have time to sit there. My DMs are crazy, bro. My messages, my emails. You missed 2 days. I know, Dave, you can relate. You missed like a day or two, and you got like 150 something emails in your inbox, and you're like, "This is crazy." So yeah, I'm just playing catch up, but I'm utilizing new methods to catch up with people.
It's crazy, right? Like, and you know what, Cog? Do you find it's crazier when you're working steadily or when you're not working? It could be worse when you're out there trying to
Yes.
trying to plug away, look for a new job.
Not working, yes. Because it's opportunities, it's things, it's great ideas, people that want to reach out to you. There's so much going on. And then obviously you lose track of just friends and people that you connect with for a while. And I feel guilty. I'm like, damn, people really want to talk to me right now, but I can't give them the time they need to have a really fluent conversation back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But my new thing now is, like I said, once that little voice message answer thing in text specifically, I know Android was late to it. I think this has always been an Apple feature. But Android now, it's called like RSS. I forgot what it's called. The term is, and I'm like, "Ooh, I can leave you."
Oh, RCS.
Yeah, there you go. Like that is my friend. People get my thoughts, my inflection, and then boom, right to it. So they don't feel like they're missing out.
All right, you're into it. All right, Kyle, I know you're a big believer in that. My wife does it when she's driving, which is why I'm like, "What? It sounds like a different person because the language is different than what you would normally use. It sounds like a lot more like restrained and sanitized." So I know when she's doing that, you know what I mean? It sounds much less personal.
You can tell,
which is hilarious. But you know what? This speaks to a thing that's on my mind, because Cog and I have been talking about this a lot lately with work and, the struggles out there with looking for work and the state of things, especially in the United States with, everything seems like it's kind of in a downturn. Feels like we're in a recession without them actually saying it. We've talked about that before. But here's something that happened to me. I want to get your guys' honest take on this.
Mm.
So there's a company, shall remain nameless, I used to work for many years. Noticed they were laying a lot of people off, which is nothing new. A lot of companies are doing that in entertainment. But this company in particular, I was keeping an eye on, especially via LinkedIn, just to see if people would pop up with the open to work thing. More and more people were getting let go from the company. Until finally this morning, a girl that I know has been there for at least 30 years got laid off. And I'm just thinking to myself, shouldn't there be a ceiling? I don't know if it's 20 years, 25 years, whatever, where you're at a company where you should be the company should be able to keep you until retirement. Like there should be some kind of built-in thing where you really have to let that person go. What can she possibly make? I mean, I know she's an editor. I know she's just from just from being there for so long, I'm sure she makes a pretty good amount of money, but to a big company like that, right? It's like, shouldn't that be established where if you're there for a certain amount of time, you're in and the company will kind of see you through to retirement as long as the company's
That's
still
very
around.
Japanese.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, they call them, we've talked about this many times. It's called window facing jobs. You there are a few things in Japanese. There's another one where I don't know the Japanese name for it, where they make it incredibly unpleasant for you. So you quit.
Oh, really?
They stop giving, there's a thing where they stop giving you work because I think Bandai Namco was accused of doing this. And who knows if it was true or not, but where they will put you in a room by yourself for days at a time, from your work, be like, yeah, sit in this meeting room and just don't do anything. But there's another on the opposite end of that. There's the window facing job where they basically soft demote older people or more tenured people and just kind of put them somewhere and just let them ride out doing nothing basically
with no decrease in pay.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing to me that I think would be interesting is the dynamic of it. Cause you're saying how much could she make? She probably makes a lot.
That's what
she's been there for 30 years. That's why the 30 years of raises. Even at just 2 or 3 or 4% at a time, she's making hundreds of percent more than she made when she started there. And that's why people like that get targeted, unfortunately. See, my whole thing would be, because I agree that it's more of someone's been here for their entire career. What do you want them to do? What I would, and it bothers me when companies get big enough where that doesn't matter anymore. And that happens rapidly. Once you get into the thousands and stuff, I mean, you're just like a number and a rounding error. They definitely don't give a fuck about you on a personal level, but I wish they did. And what I think would be an interesting option is to say all right, Sally, you've been here for 30 years. We appreciate you, your hard work. You've done great. You're making $270,000 a year. We think that that's insane based on what you do, the quality of our revenues and all of the rest. We want to keep you, but we need to adjust you down. And we want to give you the option of if you're willing to do that. A lot of demotions and pay cuts are anathema. But to me, I feel like that keeps people at least in the house. And she knows because she worked at that job 30 years ago and was making X, and now she's making so much more. And I'm not picking on this woman. I don't know this woman.
No. I know.
Just as an example.
Yeah.
It's like, it would be cool if companies and employees would be more flexible in that regard too. That seems deeply anti-worker from some perspective, but I actually think it's like, just let them quit then. But don't just,
give them
in other words,
option.
like you're laying them off because you're like, oh, you'll never accept this anyway. But maybe they would accept $100,000 a year. You know, if they could just not, because they started working here when they were 23 and now they're 53 and they just want to stay, like, and they ride it out and they know this place and you know them and they're reliable and whatever.
So basically being transparent about the option.
Right.
The option.
Right.
Okay, I got you.
It's an option.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. As opposed to just saying like, yeah, just be gone. And maybe 90% of the time they would look at that and be like, that's a great insult to me and all that. And I would understand that too. But if they're being honest and stuff like that about it, it would be an interesting way out of that. Because it is sad. Like you hear about older people kind of being out on their ass after decades often of service.
Yeah.
And certainly situations change. Maybe they sucked too. I mean, there certainly was generations of labor where a lot of, and still to this day, but because of politically like where things were with unions and everything, where a lot of people sucked and were definitely like drags and anchors.
Right.
You know,
and there was that entitlement, and I hate entitlement, but it's that the notion of the option is cool, but the notion of that is also deeply unsettling because I have this thing, and maybe it is entitlement with me, but I do have this thing of like, once you earn that salary, once you've been there and you've made your bones and you've gone up the ladder and you've worked and toiled and everything like that, and your loyalty has paid off, I believe that you're entitled to that then. Because it was, you worked up to that summit. You know what I mean?
All right, but how do you, just not to interrupt, but how do you square that with like athlete pay? Like as that goes down, your second, third, fourth contract, and you're signing, in the NFL, you're signing, you might have signed your 3-year, $40 million contract. And then on the butt end of your career, you're signing 1-year, $3 million contracts or whatever, just to stay involved.
On the basis that you're probably being used less,
right? And your performance potentially has gone down.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's not really a gotcha because that's a very extreme, specific market of very limited people, and that's enormous amounts of money, no matter what. Right. But it's just interesting to think because again, it's like, okay, you make $270,000 a year. We need to bump you down substantially. That accounts for a few layoffs that we don't have to do or that we can incorporate, and therefore, like that also saves you. Or you could just be like the 4th and 5th layoff that we're gonna. You know what I mean? It's just,
I do know what
I
you
totally
mean.
get because it sounds kind of dark, but I just think it would be interesting to give an option to people so that they at least could try to save themselves in these situations. But the best idea is to just constantly, unless a company really treats you well, like and seems to care about you and everything. If you're like a cog in a machine in a place with thousands of people, it's like I would always just be on the lookout to do what I could for myself anywhere I could.
It's funny you say that because the mercenary philosophy has been adopted, which is kind of like, hey, at the certain there's a certain ceiling here, and if I stay longer, I may look at it as a target that I make too much money. And the days of like, I understand where Dagan's coming from the days of like, you've been with a company 20, 30 plus years, you feel like you've earned it. Oh no, they're looking at you as you're making way too much money. And us getting rid of you prevents us from getting rid of, be the equivalent of getting rid of like maybe 10 people in the place. So it's a tough one because I understand like, from a purity standpoint, hey, you earned that, you worked there. But I also understand the flip side too. There are some people in positions that they struggle to get them out of there, and they literally are ineffective or utilizing their tenure to be able to keep a position that is presenting the advancement. So it's touchy, man. I get both sides of this argument. It's a good discussion, by the way.
Yeah. Inefficiencies I'm fascinated by them in the corporate world. Twitter to me was a major example of like, the company's fine. Like better than fine. And actually, I think just got a $44 billion valuation, as I read. Yeah. And they laid off 90% of the staff. And everyone was like, that's incredible. That's insane. They're going to die. And they're like, no, we're fine. Like, and if there's that level of inefficiency in the tech world, and it's why companies like Microsoft and Facebook and all these places can just lay tens of thousands of people off and nothing changes. Because it's like, it's just so big.
Yeah.
But I thought you were going to go down a different path too, Cog, which was, I think I understand why people show is the level of loyalty to companies that companies show them. Like they'll lay you off at a drop of a hat.
True.
You don't want to show them too much deference, I guess. It's why I try to be nice to people that I work with. Cause it's like, and that work for me. It's like, well, I just don't want there to be any acrimony. It's so easy to not be like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were people in my corporate experience at IGN where it's like there were definitely people in middle management that didn't do anything. And I know they didn't. Like they're because there simply couldn't have been anything that they were doing. Like, what were they doing?
Mm-hmm.
And that bothers the fuck out of me. And they were making like 300 or 400, you know, and I was making 60.
Very hard to move.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Middle management is the bottleneck. I think that really is the bottleneck. And I know that, you know, like this person was in a creative role, so it was a little different than that. But that middle management where seems like it needs the most oversight. You know what I mean? And often it's not, because those middle managers are handling that sort of thing anyway. You know, so yeah, it does. It's a sticky wicket. It's just, and the other thing at my age too, I think about just like becoming a mentor. Like my boss at my current job is really like active in children's media mentorship, which I think is awesome, because he does it because he's just a good dude. And he's trying to, you know, kind of foster and embrace like the next generations of people coming into this industry. And, you know, I'm like involved via him a little bit with some of these kids coming out of school and breaking into entertainment. And it's like, now that I'm mindful of the mentorship thing, it's like, if they keep kicking the older people, like the Gen Xers, to the curb, there's going to be no mentors. You know what I mean? I know you want to stay in the black, you know what I mean? And stay out of the red, and maybe bring in some new blood and all those kind of things, and, you know, avoid all the things with entitlement and all of those things. But if there's nobody there that knows the ropes and to pass it on and to attaboy and all that kind of thing, then that's another thing too. It's like, you know.
That's very funny that you say that, because that's exactly what happened here in TV. About a decade ago, they sent all the old people packing and they hired all new people. But the problem is that nobody was there to teach them how it was done.
Wow.
So right now, we have huge issues with our media companies here, including the one I was working for, and will be working for again in a couple of months, hopefully. Mm-hmm. They hired a bunch of new people, but there were no older people to teach them the way. So they made crap. They made like shitty programs. They made stuff nobody watched. They made social media posts nobody really cares about. So it all kind of collapsed on top of them. So now they have to send the young people packing and get older people back to hopefully get it back on track. Which is really
that's
weird.
So interesting, dude.
Yeah, almost like that alumni, and it kind of. I see what you said. Like bring that levels of education down to filter down to that and grow up that new class, so to speak.
Yeah.
I know you want to save money, but you got to be mindful of that balance. You got to have both things.
Yeah.
And continue both things. That's probably really tricky balancing act to stay ahead of. But you know what I mean? You have to keep that dynamic. That's really the most natural, organic dynamic, because it speaks to being able to create quality now, but also speaks to the past and the future. You know what I mean? You're growing all things at once in that, if you do it that way. You know, but again, a lot of it is just like, I know in the climate in the United States, you know, a lot of it is just cost cutting right now. And that's what they're thinking of. That's the urgent thing. That's the cross to bear. And then we'll handle the next thing later. You know, we gotta start with A and then we'll go to B, that type of thing. Yeah, it's interesting. It was just on my mind because I just saw it early, you know, a couple of hours ago, and I was like, wow, no one's safe. There's just like that whole thing of like, nobody is safe at a company. Like, that would have been the one person at that company I'd be like, oh, they're just going to keep her forever, you know? And she really told the line. She was like a real company person, very enthusiastic, you know? So it's kind of a shame. So I hope she lands on her feet. I wonder if she's close to retirement age though, too, because she's got to have 10 years on me. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see, my friends. All right, let's roll into the topics. You guys ready to do this? I know exactly how we're going to handle this today.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, this is good. We're going to go to Locke first. I like his topic. I think it's a nice icebreaker. And let's do this.
Sure. Well, I saw Colin's very nice post yesterday on Patreon, of course, because your company was founded 8 years ago, right?
Yes.
Yesterday, I think.
Yep.
So congratulations. That's amazing, of course.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. I've been a listener since day one, of course. I'm also extremely grateful to you for giving me the opportunity to work with you. And you're the one who put me on camera and emboldened me to start doing my own stuff. So I owe a lot to you, really.
Well, thank you.
I really wanted to thank you too for everything you've done to me. That's why you always have my loyalty too. I know there's a lot of people always talking crap about you, but people don't realize how kind you are to people. And how many chances you give to completely unknowns like myself, basically, or Dustin, or other people too, or Ben, or other people. You've done a lot for people, which is very commendable.
Thank you.
But that made me realize, like, wow, 8 years is pretty long. And I remember, of course, listening to Sacred Symbols when there was no video yet, or listening to Knockback and going about my day and just with the audio stuff, which was really great. But that got me thinking, like, wow, 8 years is very long, especially if you have weekly episodes of so many shows. So that got me thinking, like, what are my favorite moments of those 8 years of listening and watching you guys? So that got me thinking, like, what could be my favorite moments? And I had three of them that to me personally were very important. Yours will be very different, of course, but to me, as a listener, as a fan of the content, first and foremost. The first one was on January 4th, 2021. Do you know what that was? What happened then?
Is that when we launched video?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yes, that's exactly what happened. I remember seeing that video, like Last Stand. That's when you started Last Stand, right? Because
that's when that's when we renamed Colin's Last Stand to Last Stand Media, which was Dustin really drove doing that by presenting me and saying, like, it's not really about just you anymore. It's not, and I'm like, yeah, it's true. So cool.
So to me, as more of a video person, I love YouTube. I've always loved YouTube. I think that's I've always championed it as the future, even when it was just starting. And I remember watching you on Kind of Funny, of course, and making the edits when you were still with Kind of Funny, and that was just so much fun to me because you feel so much more connected to people if you can see them, and if you can see their little mimics, or you can see their little tics, or the stuff they say and do. So I always enjoyed video content way more than audio content. So when you went back to video content, I was so happy. That was a great moment for me. I remember that was a very bad time for me because the stuff with my dad was going down back then. But when I saw that video, I was like, yes, finally, this is uplifting. This is really cool. So that was one of the moments for me.
Cool.
The second moment was May 17 in that same year, 2021. Do you know what that was?
Seems like so long ago, doesn't it? 40 years ago? It's
May 21?
Yeah, May 17, 2021.
Wow.
I can give you another hint. It's episode 150 of Sacred Symbols.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it would be around the time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what game might have even come out or something. I don't know.
It's when you made Dustin the third host.
Oh, okay.
Dustin was a great friend of mine, great guy, fantastic person, such a good person, easy to root for. And I know he wanted it for so long. And then when he finally got it, and he had been working for it for so long, and you invited him a bunch of times on Sacred Symbols just for certain segments and stuff. But then when he finally made it, and when you made him the third host, that was just such a cheer moment for all of his friends. That was such a great moment. I think that was fantastic. He deserved it too. He was so happy, and look at him now.
Yeah, he's
amazing.
He's a good little boy.
Amazing. So I thought that was wonderful. That was wonderful of you to do too. Also because you told him back then in that episode, I don't know if you remember this, but you told him that the same thing happened to you, that they made you the third or the second host on Beyond on episode 150. Yeah. So you wanted to do the same to him. Yep. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I was not. People always reference Podcast Beyond, which is still going, and which was for a lot of people in its golden era when Greg and I were doing it together. But people that didn't listen to it the whole time or joined at some point think that I was there the entire time, and I wasn't. I wasn't even part of any of the founding people, of the 5 people that founded the show. I'm not one of them. So yeah, they did me a great favor. I mean, they changed. Doing Chris Roper and Greg changed my life, by doing that. So yeah. It's cool that we were able to replicate that with Dustin.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And then the last and the third one was September 7 in that same year, 2021. 2021 was a great year, apparently. What do you think happened on September 7? I will give you a hint. It's one of your interviews.
Is it Levine?
No, it's the One More Chance.
Abandoned? No, it's too soon.
But that would have been my number 4.
Up.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know.
it's the Philip Mewson interview.
Oh, that was a rough one.
That was cooking.
Yeah. Because that's where you showed that of course you still had it. Everyone knew you still had it, but that's where you showed everyone like, oh, don't fuck with me. I still got it.
I should have got that.
I can do this interview thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like you, well, I don't want to say exposed because I feel bad for the guy, but you didn't take his bullshit. Like you went for it. You asked the right questions. You let him talk basically. So I think you did a great job there. That was a great interview. I remember I was working at the time at the network, which I was just talking about, and I let people listen to it, and they were like, "What happened to this guy?" So I explained to them that he was plagiarizing stuff, and I said, "Wow, this is a really great interview," because they didn't even know anything about the subject, but even they found that it was that you did a great job there. So
thank you. That's very kind of you.
So those are my 3 moments, but I'm very curious to hear you guys' moments, which will be very different, I assume. So, well, Colin, you have to go last, of course, because it's your, you're the boss. Yeah. So, Cock, you go first. Let's see.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. I took a different approach. Just kind of like, I personalized it, for me, as far as like my personal LSM moments. I would say number 1 would definitely be joining. Just the sheer outpour of love that I received from the gaming community to say, hey, you're going to join Last Stand Media. I remember Maddie hitting me up and legitimately being surprised, saying like, wow, like, okay, like this is someone who values my opinion and he's been listening to me for a bit. And I remember, joining the inception of the show when Carrick existed and having good chemistry with both of them. And, but I didn't think any of it. And people were telling me like, no, bro, they're looking for a host now. Carrick made his announcement and stuff like that. I'm like, they're not going to be looking for me. I don't know. I didn't think of myself as any form of a candidate. I'm like, yeah, I wonder who they're going to pick. Like literally is how it kind of went. And then obviously, having the conversation with Colin, joining and stuff like that. So it was really cool. And I think specifically where the tie-in with that is the first mailbag that I did where people were asking me questions. Okay, like what type of games you like and that kind of thing. Just kind of that back and forth. I'm like, man, why do people say anything bad? Like this community is awesome. Like I'm like, I absolutely love this community and so many friends and stuff like that. So that would be number 1. Joining, that was a lot of fun. And then number 2 would probably be Butler. Butler was fun for me. First live show. Colin gave me a lot of stress with that damn presentation. I was like, I'm gonna do this damn presentation. You're gonna do this dissertation stuff and slide. All right. Shout out to Ben, saying he's like, I found some cool software that I liked. And I'm like, all right, I can rock this.
You killed it.
Thank you. Yeah. And I had fun. And then like, I would say just the whole meeting everyone in the flesh, hanging out, you know what I'm saying? The picture that we have with the LSM fan behind us is a standout for us. And then obviously the little speakeasy afterwards was kind of cool.
That was fun.
Then,
that was very, very memorable.
Yes, I love that thing, man. Yeah. And shout out to Ben. He was the mayor. I think I still got my key.
yeah, I have mine on my shelf back here too. It's funny, I just can't believe how close he was to becoming a historical figure.
That was where I was going with this, because I was like, the context of this now, the current presidential and political climate,
I know,
and to what happened if he would have been the mayor during this period, would have been iconic. Even more
crazy is that?
Dude, when in the decades to come, when there are conspiracy theories brewing about what happened that day, one of them is going to be that we received the keys to that city years ago and we were somehow involved in the CIA plot or whatever. And it'll be all half redacted
it's
and
so
shit.
strange, man.
The file's gonna get released.
Like, why do these guys have the keys to Butler?
So like, weird.
Like,
they knew.
Yeah, they
know. Bro, for sure. And I think the last was just in general. I love LSM, like our developer interviews, and I think we got a chance to have some cool ones. Me and Maddie. I remember obviously Carrie Patel was recently. Mark Darrow from Barware, Josh Sawyer. Just great. I just love that stuff because I think with gamers, we tend to think we know it all, and I like to just get the information from the source, right? And I love when we're able to do that on Define and Doing, just LSM in general. So those are probably my 3. Those are probably the ones that stood out the most to me.
Those are great ones.
Yeah. Awesome.
Those are awesome. Mm-hmm. And you know what's so funny, Kyle? You did an interview recently. Was it with Destin?
Yeah, Destin and Gary. Yeah,
you talked about Cog and how it seemed like he was just there from the beginning, and I agree. Mm-hmm. Like I don't even remember a time without Cog. It's just like a natural, organic thing. In fact, recently you reminded me of Cog's precursor. And that's also funny, Cog, that you didn't even realize you were a candidate. Because we've talked about this before. You're naturally good at this.
I appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. It
Real
was fun. And I remember getting the text message from Colin, like, bro, look at the love. Like, like, this is like, look at the engagement for you joining us. And he's like, this is really awesome. And I was like, wow, this is so cool, man. Just to see the love from the entire gaming community come together and just say, hey, we like this. We like this, partnership with you guys. This is dope.
Yeah, I think it's
so cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree. It's like, I have no beef with Carrick at all because and I've said this many, many times, like he just wanted to go do his own, like as I remember it, and my memory shot, there's just so many fucking things going on, but as I remember it, his whole thing was like, I need more time in my life to like, I can't do this, and so I didn't even take it that personal where I was like, I get it. Like, I don't think you're actually blowing me off. This is like a fun thing to do. It's easy money. So I know that it's like, there's more to it. But what I do remember is that Maddie, I've given everyone permission to just be like, who do you want? I don't like, and it's how we got Brad, it's how we got Ben back in the day. It was just like, who should we be going after? Like, I don't know. I'm an old man and I like play PlayStation games. I don't even really pay attention to anything. And Maddie wanted you, like, so that like, it wasn't even that there were any other candidates. There honestly weren't. Like, I don't remember anyone's name coming up other than you.
Salute.
And that's pretty much been true for everybody. Like, because I think we've just expanded as it made sense. So yeah, you've done a great job. Those are fun memories. So yeah, and the Butler show is very memorable. I agree. The bar afterwards was a lot of fun, smoking cigars, drinking.
Oh, that was a great time.
And the way I remember the bartender was really sweet, and I left her like a huge tip. And I remember she was like crying.
Oh wow! Really?
And it was like she was like welled up and like couldn't, and I was like, oh, this is such a great cap off to the night because I was like, you were awesome. Like we were just here for hours. You were just serving us and doing all this. Like that was wonderful. And this is a celebration. And then the meet and greet, which went on for 6 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
The following day.
Right.
Yes, bro. So many friendships I've made to this day from that event.
Oh,
that's when Dagan disappeared like a shinobi.
Yes. Yeah, I missed that one completely.
But that is a very memorable, like in many ways, the most memorable live show, actually.
I agree.
Yeah, it was number one. Yeah, man. I mean, leading up to Kyle. I mean, yeah, I feel when I got this from you, Locke, I was like, it's pretty cool. I'm fortunate because I get to see the company from multiple perspectives. Of course, I co-host shows, right? Which means a lot to me. It was this newfound thing that I never knew I would enjoy. I get such a kick out of doing it, but also like just being involved in the visual identity end of the company, like helping to name shows, design logos, animate openings, that sort of thing. It's been really meaningful because I feel it makes you feel like you're a little part of this thing, and that's meant a lot to me. Outside of the other things going on in my life and my family and my other career and all of those things.
You're completely responsible for the visual language of the company. Like, which is 100%.
Which is so dope. And, sometimes I take that for granted or I just forget, and I'm just like, oh, that means a lot because that's a lasting mark. We talk about legacy, and this will play into one of the topics we're doing later too, with the, how you're going to be remembered and all that. But I love the fact of, I really love everything about it, but really where the rubber meets the road for me is the live shows. And there have been moments in all of the shows I've been a part of. I mean, I could go back to the first episode that Colin and I did together talking about Star Wars Episode 8, which was my quote unquote tryout for podcasting, which is a really meaningful moment. But even more so than that, or the various moments in the various shows along the way, were the 3 live shows that I got to be a part of, which of course was Pittsburgh/Butler, New York, and the Houston live show, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
And really, because really what that is that all culminates in where you could actually see the people that you're talking to week in and week out, interact with them, meet with them, have a conversation, take a picture, you know what I mean? And actually put a face to a name. DMs and emails and people, you know, social medias and the Twitters and everything like that, and Instagrams, like that's all. I love the interactions, and I've actually made wonderful friends by doing this in all those ways. But meeting people face to face with them, having the occasion to say what you do means something to them, and that you gave them a chuckle, you helped them along during a tough time, or you get them through a hefty commute. You know what I mean? That's just like, that's everything. That's the most compensation for me. You know, there's no greater reward than hearing those things. So getting able to, I feel like it's a little bit of giving back, just being there, getting to be with them a little bit, have a drink, you know what I mean? Have a conversation, you know, have a little cheers moment, whatever. That's really been the coolest thing for me. And it's also strange, you know what I mean? To feel like these faceless people that you otherwise wouldn't know, you know what I mean? They know you, but you don't know them until that. And that's what I like. I think those occasions, I feel like it's establishing a level playing field, because now I know who you are. You know what I mean? And that's cool. That's a real relationship. And I think I'm uncomfortable with the fame thing. Like, I won't say the word fans. You know what I mean? I say listeners. Like, I'm just uncomfortable with that. You know what I mean? There's varying levels of fame. I have a very low level of fame compared to a Colin Moriarty or a Gene Park. You know what I mean? But still, you know what I mean? That's the thing, though. I feel like that's the great equalizer, though. Is like when we get to meet face to face, now we know each other. That's pretty dope. So that for me, and each one of those shows was something different. Like the Pittsburgh show was really meaningful to me because that was probably the most anxious I've ever been in my life. I don't even know what it was, because really there was really nothing new going on in my career with the peaks and valleys, and now I'm working, and the whole feast and famine thing, and now I'm laid off. Like, it was just another one of those periods, really, if I look at it in total. But for some reason, the anxiety was just hitting me really hard during that period. So that was a real salve on the wound of what was going on with me at that time. It really helped. You know, it's also the reason why I left the next day and I had a 6-hour drive back to Philly and stuff like that. The anxiety was really heightened during that time. But just the occasion of seeing my LSM peeps and the fans and the listeners and all that kind of thing, that was really helpful and cathartic during a time when I needed it. Right. And then the same thing with Houston and New York, like just seeing different pockets of people. And then really the special thing is in all those events and the few things that Dustin and I and Ben did in the Philly area at like Too Many Games and stuff like that, where we did a little panel, like some people were there for all 3 live shows and all 3 of those panels.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Which is insane.
Awesome.
And then you figure out, like, this guy's coming from Seattle, this one's coming from Boston, this one's coming from somewhere in the Midwest, this one's coming from Florida. It's like, it's pretty insane that we have the power to kind of, you know, like garner that level of loyalty. Mm-hmm. Pretty crazy and pretty neat. And it's something I don't take for granted. So when I interact with those people and the super fans, especially those guys and girls that really go out of their way time and time again, it's like, you know, I want to offer something. I want to entertain them. I want to make them laugh. I want to get better at this. I want to go into a podcast well informed about what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? They inspire me to do a good job.
Oh yeah.
And to always improve. So that for me, that's really what it is getting to meet those people and getting to, I don't know, again, it feels like getting to see who you are, what you look like, what means the most to you about the shows. Because what we do, it's a very one-sided thing. You know what I mean? We get to talk out and they get to listen and they're yelling back at their computer or their phone or whatever, but they never get to hear their voices. You know what I mean? So that's the high for me. As much as the shows week in and week out are great and I enjoy the hell out of it, that's really that's the pinnacle. That's peak for me.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Colin?
Yeah, it's fun to hear everyone's thoughts on their moments. And I'm glad that the letter resonated with you, Locke, because it's like, and maybe this will get into what we're going to talk about later about legacy and like what people will remember about you, hopefully, is like, I really do try to be good to people in my life. I know I have a brash exterior for a lot of people. I get that. And it's not even really a put on, nor is it done intentionally. I really think a lot of it is just a New York style like energy of, and I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, New York, you know, the best, the center of the world. I'm not trying to say that at all. It's like there is just an aggression to it that, like you say, you're a little more forward. You expect people to have a thicker skin. You've had your balls busted your whole life, you know, about everything about you.
Right.
Like no one knows your own flaws more than you when you grow up in a situation like that. And so I think that rubs some people the wrong way. And I get that. But I'm glad that like I get opportunities like that to just remind everyone that it really isn't me. I guess I'm the glue that keeps it all together, but it's become many other people, and none of it would happen without those people. I couldn't do most of what we do now on my own. There was a time where it was Fireside Chats, Knockback, and Sacred Symbols, and it was just me, and I edited it all and I put it all up, and it was fucking crazy. But like that wouldn't be possible now with like the output that we have or whatever. But yeah, it's funny. There are some memories that I thought would be fun to bring up. Dagan, you brought up one of them, which was our episode of Fireside Chats about
That's right.
The Last Jedi, which we recorded in December of 2017. And I think it went live over that holiday break. I'm pretty sure we did it at our mom's kitchen table.
We did.
In Virginia. This was years before I lived here. And that was fun because that's a really important butterfly effect moment for the company. As far as people really liked that episode, Dagan and I kind of had an idea to do something, and that's where Knockback came from. And Knockback was recorded and then launched in February in 2018. So, and Knockback's still going today. I mean, we stopped doing it for 8 months or so, and we're going to try to do it once a month or so moving forward.
Yep.
Because it's more of a labor of love than a popular show. It's like I've said, like one of our least traffic shows, but one of my favorites to do because it's like a study of a product, and so it's for a very specific audience. But that's like a seminal moment in Last Stand history as far as I'm concerned, because it incorporated Dagan as a podcaster and a host, a co-host, and we've leveraged and utilized him in all these different ways now, which none of that would have happened if not for that episode. So that's a really memorable episode of the show and spawned Knockback. Another big one is from 2019. I don't know the specific episode. I should have looked it up, but it's going to be somewhere probably in like the 70s of Sacred Symbols. Is when Chris and I decided that we were going to record it remotely for the first time, but not tell anyone.
Oh, yeah.
This was a vital moment in Last Stand history. I talked about this in dribs and drabs in the past, but around early September 2019, I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here in Los Angeles. And I was just in a bad situation. It was miserable. And I'm like, I have to take action, which these moments in my life happen every so often. I'm a very sedentary person until I'm like, I got to do something. And what I remember was, it was like, I gave myself 100 days, literally 100 days from the moment to leave. And that 100 days was up Christmas Eve, which is when I left. And I set this clock into motion and I was like, I'm out of here, and started getting all sorts of things in order. And a major thing that we had to figure out was how we were going to do the show. And people don't know this, but like Chris and I, until 2021, so late 2019 and all of 2020, recorded by talking to each other on our phones and then just recording locally into mics like this with a clap sync. And that's how we did all of our episodes. Every episode of Sacred Symbols was recorded like that. But the first 70 or so or 80 episodes of Sacred Symbols were done in person, as people will remember. And we were afraid of how that was going to go. Like, would people notice in the dynamics? So we did it secretly and no one noticed.
Not one person.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then we did it again the next week and no one noticed. And then Dagan and I started doing Knockback like that, and people weren't noticing. And I was like, this is perfect. And as people will remember, I released a letter like in October or November being like, I'm leaving California. This is how it's going to affect all of the shows. don't be upset. They've all been recorded like this for a month and you didn't notice. And that was like one of the most brilliant, if I do say so myself, like kind of moves that I made ever, because people would have been really upset if they were like, oh, you're breaking the dynamics of the shows and you're not doing, and I was like, no.
Take that away from you.
No. And so I remember that moment and getting that letter out and then leaving, and the fake local. So I wrote in my notes, fake local recording, because it was like a major moment, and it basically gave me permission to leave, like to really do it. And as my mom will tell you, our mom will tell you, it's like she didn't believe that I was really going to leave. She like, until I was like, I flew into Washington, D.C. and until she said she saw me that day, I flew over Christmas Eve night into Christmas and landed. Wow. And she was like, then she knew that it was real, that I was like really here. And I did that. And that really only was able to happen because of that fake local recording, even though I had put myself on 100 days notice. Like everyone in my life, like my ex knew at the time, my parents knew, like everyone, I was like 100 days I'm out. Like we got to figure out how this is all going to work and all these different aspects of it. So huge moment in my life that brought me here to this house.
That must have been a huge relief for you, Kyle, to know that it was going to work and that people were going to accept it, you know, that being your livelihood and everything.
It was massively important. Like all we had to do was keep the audio quality the same. And that's where I knew, I'm like, oh, the dynamic of Chris and I does work just over audio. It's totally fine. Yeah, it was a major relief. And just getting out of Los Angeles was a major relief at the end. Mm-hmm. You know, I just had to, there's just too much energy and
your mental health.
Yeah. It's just like, I had to get out of there. So, and it's no disrespect to Los Angeles. It's, for a lot of people, it's great. For me, it wasn't so great. And let's see. So yeah, the Last Jedi stuff with Dagan, the fake local recording. And then I guess the big thing here, and you had given shout out to Dustin getting onto Sacred, but it's like just hiring someone was a big moment for me. I didn't know what I was doing. I still, as I wrote in the letter, I really still have no idea what I'm doing. Like I have some professional people like doing things for me. They could all have been lying to me for the last 8 years, like filing fake tax returns and not doing any of the legal stuff that I need to do. Like, I don't know. I just trust that all these people are like, you know, the law firm's really representing me and the accountant's really doing the work and all this stuff. Because I don't know. I'm not like in the weeds with all this stuff. A lot of running a business, as I learned, is just trust. And when I realized that, I learned so much, because this isn't the first company I owned. I co-owned Kind of Funny too, but you had different people doing different things and it was all subdivided, and really Nick was the administrator of the company. Right. So like we didn't see anything. Like the things he talked about doing, I was like, oh my God, it's like horrifying. I got to like talk about getting us health insurance. And she was like, oh my God, you know, like God bless you. But I never thought that I would have to do it. And I've said before, like this life isn't for many people. I totally, not only do I understand, but I encourage like people staying in the corporate world if they can and just letting people do this shit for you. Like you shouldn't, the amount of pressure, like crushing pressure I feel all the time is not pleasant. And I guess we all understand it in our own ways, of course, but like Cog, I think you probably understand it most deeply because you own a company. And so like you understand everything like a greater than yourself. Like you control yourself and your output and all that, but there's like an entity now. And it's incredibly, there's like people relying on me.
Absolutely.
You know, I have to make good decisions. I don't always make good decisions. I made a horrible decision last month when I changed the RSS feeds, right? Like that was a really big mistake. It was entirely my fault. And it lost us customers and pissed people off and like I have to deal with that. You know, so like every move you make, and I was really in control of everything in the beginning, and I didn't want anyone to do anything. It's why I edited everything and I wrote everything and I recorded everything, and then I met someone that I felt like I could trust. And it's not to dismiss Dustin's role, like himself, but rather to say how good I think people are generally, is that there's no doubt that could have been other people in the right place at the right time that would have done the job too, right? It just so happened that I discovered someone who I was very simpatico with, who understood the task at hand, who wanted to work hard for it, who is patient and kind about things, and all of those things kind of synced up. It's like, Micah and I talk about this, is like, neither of us really believe in that, like, there's the one in your life. It's like way more complicated than that, right? Mm-hmm. And like you encounter people based on time and proximity, and things work out based on, and it, in some sense, the cosmic nature of it makes it so much more awesome, because it's like you actually just discovered a situation that worked. There was no inevitability to any of it.
Sure. Yeah.
You know? And so in some way, finding a person like Dustin was an astronomical pull for me, even though I would have found other people that could have done the job, and maybe people like, it's like, no, like we found this particular permutation of person that actually fit perfectly. And it's not to blow smoke up his ass. It's just like, it wouldn't happen without him. You know, so and people, maybe newer listeners, or we've talked about it in the past, but it's like, they might not know. It's like, I met Dustin through Ben.
Yeah.
Because Ben was on Fireside Chats. And Dustin will remind you, like, we met in the past when I was at IGN. Like, I got to be honest with you, I don't remember any of that.
I always forget that.
It's not for any reason other than that, like, I black out during that shit. Like, at some point, you know, that's stressful as hell too. Like, you want to make sure everyone's likes you and like has a good impression, and
sure. So
I just try to be like as personable and whatever is possible. But when you do that thousands of times, I don't remember every face. I'm sorry to say.
Sure.
So I can't say I remember it like he remembers it, but I remember that. I remember meeting him properly, and him being, and this is what I was saying, it's not only about being the one or it's like timing, place, circumstance. And there's got to be a level, everyone that's worked for me pretty much, in some regard, is like a go-getter. You have to kind of be assertive and make yourself invaluable. And he did that. And Last Stand wouldn't exist as it does without him. So like, that's another massive, huge fork in the road. Just because I think Sacred existed without him and all these other things. Yes. But like, we didn't become a network. And all of that was because I couldn't do the things to all these shows that, you know, he renders everything and edits everything and does all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot of, it's not like the most difficult work in the world. I don't think he would tell you that it was. It's a lot of just grinding, annoying shit, waiting for things to render, dragging things around timelines, and like publishing things to all the different locations. It's like, it requires a yeoman's kind of, you know, attention to detail and all those things. And I make fun of him all the time behind the scenes, like when he spells something wrong or like makes a mistake, because he does most of it so well that like when there's a mistake, I'm like, come on, man. Dustin's, you know, spelling something right challenge, impossible, you know, impossible level. So those are the three things I think that I would call out, where like getting Dagan involved, my brother, and Dagan was involved from the very beginning. He'll tell you, like, I drew the thing about the logos is Dagan's come up with like some of them from scratch, but others are like renditions of these really vague ideas that my complete unartistic brain came up with. So like the moon logo, it's like, yeah, I want a moon in a circle. And I don't know if you still have the picture. I don't, because it would be on my old phone, but I drew it on a fucking brown shopping bag.
Oh, we probably still have that.
And I sent it to you. I was like, this is what I want. And it was it was like some tilted moon. And that's what it is. The knockback thing, I was like, I envisioned like an arrow going backwards. But then or with sacred symbols, it's like stained glass.
Yeah.
But then like the fist punching through the bricks, that's you. The Duke logo is you. The Constellation logo is me. But again,
that was all you.
You represented it nice. And then the Summon Sign logo was you too. So you're all over the company. And I think that's really cool. And then, the fake local recording is a big and funny moment. And then, hiring Dustin full time was a big one. So I think that's where I'll leave it, if that's satisfactory.
That's pretty
that's
cool.
Awesome. That's very wholesome. That's exactly what I hoped for. Perfect.
I'm flattered. I would never thought would have made that cut. I'm really honored, because there's so many. If you think about the company and its success and its evolution, there's a lot of moments. You know what I mean? This is gonna be one of those topics where I'm definitely forgetting things. I would still boil it down to the live shows for me personally, but there are a lot of moments. You know what I mean? Like Colin and I had a fit of laughter on Knockback recording in Santa Monica one time that was so, as Locke says, wholesome. That was like one of the great belly laughs of my life. Not even just on podcasting, which I think involved when we were trying to do Mad Libs.
Yeah.
It was like an opening segment, and it was just, you know what I mean? Like that. I would call up that moment. You know what I mean? Which I'm sure you guys have had a lot of those moments, especially on Sacred Symbols, because the dynamic with 3 is always the special. There's something in that.
Yeah, 3's good.
Right? Yeah. That alchemy of just having 3, especially 3 familiar people and those 3 personalities specifically, that, you know what I mean? But that's one thing too that I savor, like those moments that can't be planned for. You know what I mean? The real spontaneity. It's super, super cool. So that's good. This would be a great question for everybody in the company. Mm-hmm. So one of those things where I lament not everybody having a chance to answer it. Maybe you bring it back.
Yeah, remix it.
Yeah, for the audience too, it would be interesting to hear what they, because I'm sure they remember a lot of definitely a lot of funny things or whatever.
Great point.
Absolutely.
That would be cool. Yeah, let us know. Leave it down in the comments, my friends. I'd like to know that. That's neat. That's super cool. All right. Well, Locke, what do you think? You satisfied?
Yeah, more than satisfied.
Good
that was
topic,
awesome,
dude.
Great stuff.
That was fun. Cog, I know you saw this coming. I'm gonna put you in the middle, my friend. You're gonna be the middle of the podcast sandwich today, my dude. You ready?
Yeah, so it's me. Oh, you said Cog or Carl?
No, Cog.
Yeah,
the boss doesn't bring a topic.
I got you.
He doesn't have to.
Absolutely. Yeah. This one, I'm gonna keep it morbid. Keeping my streak of morbidness going.
Love that.
Man. So, this time I wanted to talk about legacy kind of being immortalized. And the thought came to my mind because I forgot to tell Maddie on Duke that I was in a car accident in February.
What?
Yeah, it was. I'm minimizing it, but it was a little traumatic experience. It was February, and I'm driving to go see a friend, and car ahead of me, probably going about 45, 50 miles an hour. Car directly ahead of me kind of stopped super abruptly because they were trying to avoid an accident, and I didn't have enough time. Slammed on the brakes, boom, and hit it, and then the airbag deployed. Luckily, your boy had your seatbelt. I was good. Airbag deployed, so I hit my head, but it was on the airbag, right?
Oh, good.
So the funny joke on Duke was, I was like, I knew I was vain because the first thing I checked. It's not if my bones are broken, sternum's hurt. I put down the car mirror underneath the thing. I'm like, yo, my nose all right? Because I thought my nose was busted. So my vainness was, is my sexy all right? Am I good?
Yeah.
So Maddie's like, yo, you are out of control. So during this story, I'm telling him, he's laughing. And we go through it, and I was like, all right, one thing about, this could have been it, right? Let's say you didn't have the seatbelt, you didn't have the airbag, right? And I started, thinking about like legacy and how you want to be immortalized. So I started like initially like with the, it was just the concept of death itself, which I do not like. It's very final, and I'm a person that struggles with that, just something immediately being over. And I must admit, like with a funeral thing, for me personally, I must admit, this is very selfish. Dang it, I need grown man tears at my tree. I need y'all bawling. Yeah. I need y'all crying. I need that because I want to know how much I affected people. If there's any way my mind could watch from the outside of the reaction at my funeral, because I want people to cherish me, damn it. I want to see that pain a little bit. You know what I'm saying? How much you meant. So that means you too, Kyle. I need some thug tears.
Yeah, I mean, I'll cry. I'm a very sensitive person.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But all jokes aside, so that's the first thing. There's one silly request, Dagan, that you would appreciate. All right, so for the family thing, on a straight funeral level, moms, you can cremate me. It's cool. I ain't gonna put you through any financial thing. You ain't gotta go through all that. But I do have one request. When y'all lowering me down or whatever it is, or when the person decides everybody, I need Streets of Rage 1 intro music to play. All right, so we need that to play because I need the somber tones, then that beat kick in so you remember the fun times. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know that song? And then at the end, it kind of fades out. That's when it gets me because that's like your final heart. So you already got that part vision. I need Streets of Rage 1 title intro at the funeral. That's the only thing I'm requesting of y'all. Now, the argument that me and Maddie got with, don't laugh, nigga. The argument that me and Maddie got is, okay, legacy now. Right now, we got to get to the legacy bag. So we both agree I don't want AI facsimile of me where you can interact and talk with me. Like, I don't want that. No, that's selfish. I'm dead. You don't get to keep communicating. But what I do want, Colin, is I want like an archive. I want something where it's almost like a more technically advanced version of your Facebook memories, greatest moments on this day, on that day. So you could go back in the archive. You know, it doesn't have to be limited to just podcasts. Any little life achievement that I had or a picture of something that involved, I would like people to be able to go back to that. So that's one of my things. So I think that was it as far as that.
Okay.
And just overall, my legacy, just as far as the actual me as a person, look, you know, I would hope, you know, people thought I was a good person, I was fair. And I think the thing that would probably be the most important to me, because I have a wide variety of friends, very diverse amount of friends. Not everybody get along, right? And I think for me, almost like that sacred peace treaty. Like, Cog's gone, and I don't usually rock with you, but for Cog, we're going to keep the peace. We don't have to ever, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's my ultimate victory. If I can get the people who are enemies amongst themselves to be friends with me to somehow, you know what I mean? Like, then I'm like, my life meant something, bro. You know what I'm saying? So that's my joy. I'm writing about little things together, get my wills together, but I want to bring it to y'all, you know, as far as just, you know, legacy and you know, however you want to take it. If you want to take it from the funeral aspect, you want to talk about how you want to be remembered, you know what I'm saying? So actually, I want to start with you, Dagan. I'm very curious because you know, you got a big heart. I'm curious how you would approach Dagan is gone. We're at, you know, what does he want? How does he want to be remembered?
I'm no stranger to thinking about this. It's not even being morbid. I think it's just getting older. Like, I'm really mindful of this topic. First of all, I'm glad you're okay.
Thank you.
God, that's scary to get in an accident.
By the way, my first ever accident. Been driving 20 plus years. The only thing that's ever happened was like my car was parked and a snowplow hit into it while I'm not in there. I've never been in an accident. This is my first ever. So, and there is PTSD for people who, you have to build your confidence back up slowly, short little trips and things like that. Because you kind of feel like everyone's out to get you and you're like hypersensitive. So it takes a while, but I'm doing good. I'm doing so much better.
That's
now.
rough.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it because that's dangerous. Yeah, man. I mean, you know what's funny? You know what I think about a lot, guys? I think about when I die, I think the thing that I think about first and foremost is I want that really long line of cars with the headlights on. Going from the wake to the funeral. Like, it can't just be the four. You know, once in a while you see a funeral, it's really sad because there's like 4 cars in the hearse. I want that line of traffic to interrupt whatever the hell's going on here for hours.
That cameraman.
We'll hire a bunch of cars. We'll hire a bunch of cars because there's only so many people. You got to get a bunch
of cars. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I don't think that many people love me to have what I'm envisioning. So it's going to have to. You guys are going to have to work at that a little bit. But that's the ultimate honor. You know what I mean? That's but there's something in that very Italian cinematic funeral imagery where, you know, it's very Godfather. Like, that procession of cars needs to be miles long. You know, so that's the first thing I would ask. And also, no nice weather. I'm not requesting a time of year to die, but gray sky, rain, like, we need to set the whole tone with the imagery. Right. And
God cried that day.
Black. Everybody's in black. Yeah, God's crying. Everybody's got the umbrellas out. Raining hard. I want people to be uncomfortable. This shouldn't be a pleasant day. Right.
Interesting.
It should be. That's a big part of it.
What else we got, Dig?
Yeah. So that as far as that goes, that would be those would be my biggest requests. Right. But I mean, as far as being remembered, you know what's crazy, dude? Honestly, even a few years ago, if you asked me this question, I'd be like really bound up in like, oh, glory, and you want to be remembered as a legend and the things that are important to you. So, which I think about sometimes, you know, or had thought about, you know, leading up to maturing to a certain age. Like, what's the thing that's really important to me? Animation, being an animator, the quality of the work that I do. So I would love the animation community, for instance, to remember me as this legend who, like, oh, Dagan's work, you know what I mean? Like, he always set the bar really high in a production, and we had to scramble to, you know, keep up to his standard. And he would do 7 days of work for 5 days of pay. Like, he was so dedicated. And being remembered that way, even really up until very recently, like that was always something that was in the back of my mind. Like I would love to be remembered like the animators that I admired growing up and becoming an art student and all that kind of thing. And then you just realize, you know what, man, like it's almost like that you can't take it with you thing. It's like, the Egyptians tried that. You know what I mean? It's almost the same kind of thing. It's like, it's a different type of currency, but I can't affect the way people remember me that way. Right. And the professional thing should really take a back seat anyway. Maybe you should stop being such a workaholic. And really, if you boil it down to brass tacks, honestly, I'll say it. I would just love to be remembered as somebody who was kind. That's it. Easy. I mean, if we had to sort of boil it down to one thing, did I make the lives of my friends and family just a little nicer by being around? That's it. Friends, colleagues and neighbors, all that sort of thing. But did I make life just a little more tolerable, a little more pleasant just by being in your life? Did I make you laugh? Did I pick you up when you were down? Did I come through when you really needed me? All of those things. Did let your life, not that I want the people, this will sound funny, but not that I want my loved ones to suffer in my absence, but did maybe your life just get 1% worse? Okay. Even if just for a little while.
Okay.
Now that I'm not here anymore.
We'll appreciate you, damn it. We're going to appreciate it. That's right. That's right.
That's it. You know what I mean? There's echelons to it too. Like I want to be remembered as being a great husband and a great dad. Like those are really important things to me. But, right below that would be great friend and great brother and great son. And with the nature of our family, a great nephew would certainly factor into that. Just to be remembered as somebody who contributed something to everybody's lives, that being the individual, that being the family. That's it. That's really what's important, and, Helene always says that to me, like, especially with work, because I get really obsessive. Like I talked about last week, how I got no sleep because I was working 2 jobs and I was staying up so late to make this thing really polished and everything, which by the way, the client had no notes. Thank you very much. But that's how the Dexter does. I go in expecting no notes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did I spend 2 extra days like an idiot and not sleep? Yeah. But of course, you know what I mean? But Helene's like saying, sometimes you gotta, she'll say to me, is this for an Emmy Award? And I'd be like, no, I've gotten 3 Emmy Award nominations in 27 years. So mostly it's not for an Emmy Award, but what she's saying is choose your battles, So I learned, took me into my late 40s, maybe even into my early 50s now, where it's like, the professionalism is one thing. I like to be remembered as a great animator and somebody who was good in the community. But now, you know what? Rather than be a badass animator, I'd like the animation community that I always kind of rubbed elbows with to remember me as somebody who was fun to work with, reliable, loyal. Maybe I reached out to help get them a job when they needed a gig, that sort of thing. That's even cooler than being, the badass animator that did the best work on the show, and I've only just realized that recently, and maybe I'm still sort of convincing myself that that's the most important thing. But I do realize that now more than ever, where it's like, yeah, that's cool to remember it as a badass and whatever the thing is that's most important to you. But, it's really about what you bring, the humanity that you bring, right? That's it.
I like this, man. I do have to follow up one other question with you, which is the Maddie question, which is in the age of technology, in the age of AI, right? How, do you frown upon any technological use of your work or you yourself or your personality for loved ones to be able to access? Would you be like, nope, I need that to stay with me, that is unethical? Or the work of the personality of Dagan could be accessed, or some facsimile of you?
That's really an interesting question. Well, I'll say it like this. You know what I do think of a lot? Even the podcasts that we're doing right now, like the things we create are going to outlive us.
Yes. Sometimes
that's a disturbing thought, but I also think it's a very important thing. Like the things you create, we're all creative people. I think about this insofar as podcasting, but also the art I create, whether it's an illustration or the animation that I've been a part of, the shows that I've been a part of. Like the things you're creating and putting out into the world are going to outlive you, for all intents and purposes. And I think about that a lot insofar as like there's something really magical about creation when it comes down to that, because everything you're putting out to the world doesn't really have the expiration date that you do as a person, which is really kind of neat. Again, like a little bit could be construed as morbid or maybe eerie, but I think that's what makes creation really special. Like the Picasso hanging in the museum is going to outlive the man. And now we can enjoy it in perpetuity, which is really neat. I think about creating a legacy for my family because, especially with kids, certainly with a wife that's even a little younger than me and a little, much healthier than me as well, like actually, takes care of herself. It's like a little bit of the page of like what Bruce Willis was doing. Like, when do I start scrambling to leave a body of work behind that they could have even when I'm gone, which I hope, I hope is many years from now, but who knows?
Right.
You know what I mean? But also something advantageous, or I feel lucky that I'm in the position to possibly create things of monetary value that my family could use in my absence. Not that I've really gone down that road yet, because I already get paid for my work in a commercial sense. But what can I leave behind for them? I'm talking about like my own animated series, my own line of children's books, whatever I'm talking about, a series of illustrations or paintings, whatever. I think about that a lot. You know what I mean? Like not only of how I'll be remembered creatively or as an artist or my vision or my body of work, but how can that be used for the people I love when I'm not here anymore? Right. I think about that all the time.
All right. Yeah. I got you, bro. I got you. I gotta go to Lock. I'm gonna save Colin for last. I gotta go to Lock because I gotta talk to the Lord of video and editing and outstanding work, hilarious stuff. I actually love your work. It's super high quality.
Thank you.
You always kill it. When them Lockmar edits used to come, I'm like, oh God, what are you gonna do to me?
Good shit.
It's gonna be so good. You know what I mean? But you gotta talk about it, man. Legacy, being immortalized. How does Locke want his to be handled?
Well, I remember, I think last week or 2 or 3 weeks ago, you guys had a Constellation episode. I think it was maybe you three, or maybe it was with Gene, where you talked about losing someone and what that did to you. And I remember all of you said, we were so lucky because we've never lost someone super important. Like your parents are still there.
That would be with my morbid funeral stuff last time.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's funny. That's the perfect permutation. Because I listened to that episode and I was walking around and listening to it, and I was thinking to myself, like, you lucky sons of bitches. Because when that happens, when you lose someone that's very close to you, everything changes. Everything. Your whole perspective on legacy, especially in my case, was completely flipped around. Because when my dad, I already talked about my dad, I don't want to talk about it again, but when the stuff with him happened, my dad was a great man, loved by everyone, very kind, very social, very forgiving, highly talented writer, politician. He gave lectures at universities all over the globe. He was very involved with U.S. politics in 2012. But he settled because he got a wife and kids. So at a certain age, he said, okay, well, I'm not going to pursue this career. I'm going to settle. I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to be a good husband. And that's what I'll do, because that's what I have to do. But he was very kind to people. Everybody loved him. My dad had so many friends, so many colleagues who spoke so highly of him. And then when he got his condition, when the accident happened to him, everyone disappeared. They were all gone, never saw them again until the funeral, when they all came around and said, oh, we're so sorry, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. So that got me thinking ever since then that none of that stuff really matters all that much. Because in the end, and this is going to sound very morbid, but I don't mean it that way. In the end, you're on your own. You if you're lucky, you have maybe family around, but most of us will die alone, which is not a very fun thing to think about, but that's reality, I think. But that taught me a few very valuable lessons that brought me to where I am right now, which is very important, and that is that the only thing that matters is the here and now, while you're still alive. It doesn't matter when you're gone, because people can remember you, but you don't know because you're not there anymore. So thanks to my dad passing, and in the way that he passed, taught me a few very valuable lessons that I'm very thankful for to him. And one of them is love people while you can, and tell them how much they mean to you. Before my dad's accident, I never did that. I never told people I cared about them. That's for stupid people. Stupid people do that. But ever since his accident, I try to tell my friends or whoever how much they mean to me and what a great job they're doing and how great they are. And also to treat them right, treat people right. If people treat you right, treat them right as well. Be honest to them. Be there for them. Be there for your close friends or your family. I have one of my friends called Paul, who's been with me throughout the whole process. I've known that guy for 2 decades, and he's always been there for me at like the hardest points in my life. And I remember when my dad had his accident and everybody disappeared, he was still there for me because he was my friend, not my dad's friend. He was my friend, and he stood by me. Even when my own mom tried to sue me, and he was still there and arranging stuff for me and helping me and trying to arrange stuff for my dad. So I think family and friends is so important. In my case, my friends became my family. Loyalty is another thing that taught me. That's so important. Be loyal to your friends. Be loyal to your family. That goes for you guys too. Like the people I've met through you guys, like Dustin and Maddie or Brad or you guys. So be loyal to them. Treat them well. Be kind to them. But on the other flip side, if somebody screws you or betrays you, cut them off. You don't have to put time into people that don't put time in you or that are just there to take advantage of you.
Indeed.
And another thing that you might disagree with, but that was a very important lesson to me, is that money doesn't matter ultimately. It makes your life easier, and it of course you can survive easier if you have money. But my dad had a lot of money, and it all disappeared because we had to pay for his treatment. So he retired at age 62. He got into his accident at age 63, worked his entire life, worked very hard, never got to enjoy it. Never got to enjoy it. Never. And I had to pay all the hospital bills and all the treatments and whatever. So hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars went there. So no inheritance for his kids, no nothing, which is completely fine. But enjoy the money while you have it, I would say. I would have to say. And then for me personally, what also really helped it was work towards a goal and don't settle. Like I said before, my dad clearly settled for something that he could have done a lot better than what he settled for. So for me, it's very important in the last few years to not settle. I could easily go outside and get like a stupid. I could go work in a call center again and be a call center manager, or go work at the network as an editor for the next 20 years. But I don't want to do that anymore. So don't settle for less, even if it gets you into trouble. Have a goal and try to work towards that. And the last thing that's very important is that so many people die with nothing left. And what I mean by that, my dad, when he passed away, I realized I have no videos of him. None. So I will never hear my dad's voice again. I have a couple of pictures from when he was younger or when I was younger, but I never took pictures now, like the past 2 decades. So he only lives in my memory. And I think that's the case for a lot of people, maybe who don't have videos. So take a lot of videos of your friends and family and talk with them and record it maybe. Because I remember my dad, but when I went to pick the gravestone for when he died, I went to the graveyard and all the graves just said their names, the names of the dead people, and then the date they died. And I figured, well, that's so. I'm not going to do that. So my dad's gravestone says, "Here lies one of the best fathers, grandpas, uncles, colleagues, and friends a person could ever have."
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Then his name and his picture. So I think it's that will be his legacy. So my dad's legacy will be his gravestone and his kids, I hope, then to tell his story. And then I figured, well, what will my legacy be? But I think this. I don't really. I have no kids. I have no family, and I don't think I ever will have kids. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Not that I know of, anyway. But but I think my legacy. You gave me my legacy. I remember the first time I was on Constellation, and I got to tell my dad's story. One of my brothers saw that, and he was like, "Oh my God, dude, I had no idea any of this happened." So because of Constellation, it brought us closer together. Or some of my friends saw that too, and we're like, "Oh my God, dude, why did you tell us anything?" So I think, Dagan, like you brought up very, very accurately, this will outlive every single one of us, I think. But people can go back to this video or other videos or the edits or whatever, and there it is. That's what we did. So I think that's very cool. I think that's something not a lot of people have, like video evidence on YouTube. Maybe YouTube will die or disappear, or when the Russians take over, it will be called something else. I don't know. But I think it's very cool that something like that exists, and that's something not a lot of people have. It's a huge privilege, and I'm very thankful that it exists. So I think that's very cool. So what will my legacy be? This, I have to say. Yeah.
No,
well, you're good at this, dude.
You're good at it, man. You're good at it. You're fantastic. I love what you said about the videos and pictures, because as I've gotten older, I've talked to a lot of friends and family. I'm like, bro, we don't have a lot of pictures together. Like, we have all these great moments, and we're not taking the time to memorize it. I've been doing way better the last 2 years about this, 2-3 years. Like, bro, we got to take a picture right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, boom. Like, I'm even college where I'm like, bro, we need a picture. Get Michael, let's go. It's your wedding, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to remember these moments, because you get older. You're like, damn, we have nothing to reflect. And those videos, those pictures, those are so important, man. I love what you said about that. I've been really trying to apply that myself. So, yeah, good stuff.
It fades.
Yeah, but I got to get Colin in here. I'm very curious. Legacy. Immortalization, possibly. How we doing?
Yeah. Well, first, let me use this as a subtle reminder to remind everyone that I insist on being cremated. And if you find out in any way, shape, or form that I'm being buried without being cremated, something has gone terribly wrong. So I'm so afraid of that I have to constantly remind everyone, like,
documentation.
Like when people say, like, I did not kill myself. I'm not going to kill myself, and then they end up dying.
But Kyle, remind me, was your preference to just be kept then in an urn, or do you want to be sprinkled out over the ocean?
Yeah, you could like sprinkle me, on Long Island somewhere or something. I don't know. Okay. No one has to keep me. I don't want them to do that. I just want to make sure that I am not buried alive. I'm not doing it for sentimental reasons. I'm doing it for purely selfish reasons.
Can we smoke you?
Yeah, I mean, I would love it.
Smoke that Colin Pack.
I would love it if you did. I would love it if you sprinkled a little bit of me in a joint.
I'm saying like I'm still going to be here. Can they smoke you?
Anyone's allowed to. I would love that if someone did that.
So let's go.
So just let me use that as an example. I loved what you brought up, Locke, because what I was thinking of and what you're kind of referencing is like the idea of oblivion. We brought this up in the past, like you cease to exist. And one of the things that I'm fascinated about, maybe I think about this a lot more because I was in history, in the world of history for a long time, is like no one remembers anyone. At some point, you have to be a really remarkable figure to be remembered for more than a couple generations by anyone. Sure. And I wonder if it's like, think about all the films that came out, all the movie stars that were huge, all of the music and the sold out concerts and stuff. And like a lot of these people are just not lost to history, but just aren't discussed anymore. And this will become more and more common to the point, like I'm surprised when I reference things sometimes and they seem so much more or less obscure than they are to people. Things just kind of get old. And if you're normal people like us, that's going to be more pronounced, I think, because you're not like the King of England or some shit like that, or Jesus Christ or Adolf Hitler or like some character that will just, people study you and they know everything about you. And so I wonder like what it is, like what within reason is, can I have like for myself where I'm like, yeah, I can stick around in someone's mind, someone's consciousness. And I was reminded of when I worked at the Massachusetts Historical Society when I was in college, which is a job I reference sometimes. It was a internship for a couple semesters. And I transcribed a bunch of things from the American Revolution specifically. It was for a project on the American Revolution. And they were really nice people, and I really liked it there. But one of the cool things was there were these journals. I think the guy's name was John Rowe. I'd have to go look. But he was a Revolutionary War soldier who was at like the early battles in 1775, and all the way through, I think, like 1778 or 1779. And so like Bunker Hill to whatever. And I think even Lexington and Concord, and he was just a farmer and a dude, and he was never prominent. Like no one really knew who he was at the time. But the one weird thing was that he kept a journal, like these series of journals about like his whole life. And so cool. a lot of the references were just like, the weather and like something that happened or someone said something. But then like he'll have an entry like on the day of Bunker Hill. And he'll have like like on the day of Lexington and on the day of all those kinds of things. And it was like a normal person's insight into the events, even though he isn't a notable person himself. And he became notable because he put it down and then people saved his shit. And it's now like great primary sources from a normal person's point of view into like these historic events.
That's really cool.
In some strange way. And so I bring that up because I transcribed a lot of that stuff. And I was flipping through these journals and reading this stuff. And it's like so interesting because he's just some dude. And I hope that in my own way, maybe I'm that dude. Like you were saying, everything's going to, as long as there's like not EMPs and stuff, like everything will exist forever. And like maybe it is some reference point, like what we discuss or what we talk about or the way we analyze games or something we said about a video game or an interview we gave. Like imagine if one of those things becomes important and though you're never relevant widely, like someone is citing you, like someone is familiar with you, maybe for hundreds of years. Like I was familiar with John Rowe, you know, who is just a farmer from Massachusetts that died in the 1780s or something. And that's kind of all I want from is like to remain relevant in some way. And what I was saying earlier about all that meets oblivion and goes away is like, that might be too much to ask. You know, like we don't even really know our great grandparents. No. We certainly don't know their parents. We don't know their names. We don't like, we know like it's in the family tree. We literally know, but we don't know. These become names and reference points to the point where they're just mysteries. And, I wonder if that's kind of what we're all mostly destined for. And if that's just kind of the way it goes. As far as like my more immediate remembrance of like the people I knew and is like, it was said earlier, it's like, I just want to be remembered as like a good person. I'm very silly. And so I hope that people find humor in the event. And I don't mean that as like, that like they find levity in it and know like what I would have found funny. And that like, it doesn't have to be totally serious because I'm not a serious person. And, but at the same time, I hope that I am remembered as being good and decent to people. I try not to have beef. Like, I don't give a shit about what people that I don't know think about me, but like the people that are in my life that I love or whatever, I try to be decent, respectful, available, generous when necessary or whatever. And I hope that like people at the very least were like, yeah, he was a good guy. You don't have to like fucking fawn over me, you know? But like, you don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, fuck that dude. And as long as like no one in my life feels that way, and I don't think people in my life feel that way about me. Like, and I'm not saying that because like of the very many social dynamics around you. It's like, I really don't do anything to anyone where someone would feel that way about me. So like, I just want that to be kind of the stake in the ground. And that's good enough for me. Is like, they're like, he was a good guy and he was funny and he was kind and we're going to miss him. Doesn't have to be anything more than that. And again, going back to kind of the more oblivion nature, like, I don't know what more I could really expect. Maybe I become like some sort of cult like podcast figure when I die or something and like live on forever, but it's not going to, that's not going to happen. You know, I have long embraced my own obsolescence. I've said that many times. Like, I just think it's unreasonable to have these delusions of grandeur, you know, like you are somehow immune to history. No. The end of history, as they say, you know, like,
so I'm going to pose this question to you. What about in the, like I said, the technology age, the AI age of archive or some form of continuing to interact with Colin Moriarty post death? You're like, are you opposed to, like, would you give your rights, you know, legally to be able to you know, the essence of Colin?
Yeah, if I was like some sort of notable person when I died and like there was a market for it that could benefit financially the people I leave behind, then yes.
Okay.
Like if you could make money on me, it's like what I think about if I were a great writer. I think one of the great things of Tolkien or whatever is he left his family behind all this stuff and they could just make a shit ton of money on it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, do it. Do
Forever.
Just don't fuck with it like you have, but they went a little too far with it. But it's like, yeah, like take advantage of it for the 80 years you have or so until this thing just enters the public domain and you can't do anything with it anymore. It'd be stupid to squander that. But as far as, and I also just don't think we have much of a choice in the matter. But my hope is that people would be able to let me go, you know, at the same time. And I don't mean like the audience or whatever. I mean like people in my family. It's like, all things come to an end. Don't keep me around in some weird Black Mirror episode. That's not really me.
Yeah, it's not natural.
That's not you anymore. I got you.
I was talking about this. I mean, this is not nearly as creepy, but I was talking recently about Rush, our dog, one of our dogs, and I was like, if I could clone him, that would be so interesting because he would be the same, like literally, but figuratively, he'd be totally different. Right. He would have been like all the nature and nurture stuff would come in. So he would look the same. He would act the same, have the same ailments, and maybe the same predispositions to be a certain way. But he would be a totally different dog. And it's like, do you really want like weird Rush?
Yeah, that would be creepy.
So like think about that with like, do you want weird Colin? Because no matter how good it is,
it won't be.
It won't be right. You'll know it won't be. Like there'll be something about it that will strike you and make you despondent, probably. Like something totally anathema to most people, but like that you'd be like, what did you just say? You know, like that wouldn't have, you wouldn't have put it like that, or you wouldn't have said that, or you wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah.
And so like, why even I love the idea of kind of fading into the ether. And that is part of, it's why humans are so are obsessed with mysticism. It's like, there's something about it that you have to confront, and that we think we can trick it, I think is going to be a mistake. Not in like the way of like productivity, but in the way of like remembrance. I think it's going to bite people in the ass in a lot of ways.
Yeah. It sounds scary, right? To say this, but yeah, there's something natural about being gone, you know, just being gone. And then what comes next is there's something really organic about just missing people. Mm-hmm. You know, it used to be what you're saying, Cog, is so interesting because now it's AI. But, you know, back in the day, I'm old enough to remember people talked about frozen cryogenics.
Yeah, cryogenics, man.
And Walt Disney's frozen body. And we're going to, no pun, we're going to reanimate Walt Disney and all that kind of shit. Why?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's okay. Like, let his legacy be, it's okay to remember. It's okay to miss. Mm-hmm. It's okay to let, people fade away, as Colin's saying, into the ether. There's something natural about people being gone. And, it's that bittersweet.
I'm struggling. I'm more morbid than me. I'm damn struggling with it.
I mean, dude, it is very tough to face your own.
Oh, 100%.
Like, we all know it is crazy. I just think it's a biological thing. Like, you're not allowed to really, like, dwelling on it is a psychological, deficiency. And we know that. And so, yeah, it makes sense. It's like, and I think that's probably why people feel at ease when they die and stuff. Like, there's all these like mechanisms that I think have made it easier. The thing I'm honestly afraid of is like, and I think there's like a Ray Bradbury story about this or something, is what if like that moment of dying is horrifying, but no one can communicate it?
Oh,
yeah.
What if it's like short circuiting in a way that is so deeply unpleasant, but you can't
even communicate it.
Yeah. Or you reach some sort of horrifying end. But I just don't think that that's true. And by the way, it doesn't mean that I think there's like a heaven or anything like that per se. Right. What I mean is that I think that like the body relinquishes you in a peaceful manner.
Mm-hmm.
Because it knows.
Yeah. Locke, you going to jump in for a second before we move on? It seemed like we had a thought.
Have you ever seen anyone die, or been present with somebody who dies? Or
I don't think
in the
so.
Hospital? Or...
No, maybe no. My grandfather would be the only person, and I don't think I was there. So no.
I've seen a couple of people pass away from like cancer or something, and it's in their sleep, but it's always very peaceful, even when they're awake. It's very like. Have you ever read like famous last words of people? Because most of the time they're not really that profound. But I remember, I think Steve Jobs said, "Oh wow." Those were his last words.
That's what he said. Really?
Yeah, because he saw something. He said, "Oh wow!"
On his way out. Wow.
On his way out. So
that's pretty cool.
I think maybe people see something or something good happens.
I would like to think that he was so 4D that he like did that on purpose so that people would because Walter Isaacson was with him when he died. Right, like all those last months, like that's when they like geared up doing like the interviews and shit like that. And so maybe he's like, people are gonna like obsess over this bio for centuries.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
it's totally on purpose.
Good stuff, gents. Good stuff. Love these discussions, keeping the morbid trend going. Appreciate you indulging me.
I love it. You know what? You gotta do you. We all go through these periods, right? I always think of Cog as like the spirited, uplifting one, definitely always pleasant. But listen, we go through these periods. I love what Locke said, about your dad, dude. Like I think that like having that ability, like I struggle with this a lot. Because even the best people in my life, like the greatest people, the people that I would love to model myself off of, a lot of them still lack that talent of just giving people their flowers in the present. You know what I mean? Like they're just not mindful of it. You know, it's like, let people know what you mean to them while they're still here. Like, how hard is that?
Yeah.
You know, and I think I get frustrated because I'm not a very bright dude, but I get that for some reason. And I'm always trying to give off that energy, especially with people that I love. Like, let people know how much you mean. What do they do well? Like, sing their praises, you know, glorify them a little bit, talk them up. You know what I mean? Absolutely. That type of thing. I think that's a rare talent. And the fact that your dad had that and passed that on is something I try to do with my kids. It's like, don't wait till you're like crying over their gravestone. Why? You know, think about that a lot. Yep. You know, and I think, you know what, I selfishly, I think it's because I like praise and I like to be praised. And it's like, I always have since I dating back to like a little kid. Like I would do a drawing just to show my parents, just to say, oh, that's so cool. You know, like I never operated in a vacuum. Like I always loved the feedback, especially the positive feedback. Right. And I just think a lot of people, and I don't think it's like this purposeful thing where people are like withholding their feelings. I just don't think people are mindful of it or don't have the time or just don't have the capacity to like keep that at the top of their brain. Like, you know, let me just, you know, say something nice to somebody that means something to me in the living.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well said. Yeah. People take it for granted. You know, they know how I feel about them. No,
right.
Exactly. You know, you've never verbalized that. That actually could help someone, you know, because a lot of people are like, hey, does this person even, you know,
sure.
You know, and people need to hear. So yeah, what Locke said is very profound because what I hate is, again, I have to call people out. You go to the funeral and it's, oh my God, you're bored. I'm not saying you're not supposed to be emotional, but did you tell that person when they were alive that you felt that way? Because now I'm looking at you crazy. That person would have loved to hear you say these things you're saying at this funeral to their face when they were here and are capable of receiving it. So I'm with Locke 100% on that one.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Well said. That. But I am satiated. Thanks, gents.
Nice. All right. That was a good one. All right, my dudes. As always, I'm bringing up the rear with my topic. I know I let you guys know in the email, but what I want you to talk to me about today is what would you like to see the return of if you had your choice? And I tried to paint the picture of it a little bit in the email this week, but I'm talking about like one of your favorite bands that broke up, or maybe there's an old TV show that you would like to see resurrected, or a defunct video game franchise that factors in heavy with this group, right? A forgotten movie series. It could even be a thing that's a one-off that maybe you'd like to see, you know, the whole thing kind of brought back and rebooted, or maybe you even think, you know what, that's okay as a one-off. Or maybe it was even a thing that was brought back that you would rather it's not be brought back because they fucked it up in some capacity. I'll tell you what brought this up. This is kind of a weird catalyst for me. But I mean, first thing I should say is I'm that type of dude, right, that I'd prefer to see something, anything, leave us wanting more than that thing wearing out its welcome. Personally, that's just a very Dagster energy. I'd like to go to my grave thinking, oh, I wonder what that could have been like if they kept going or brought it back, that thing I loved. But I think it's better to be kind of left wanting than to, you know, be disappointed, right? We'll say. So that's my thing. And I think there's something about like just my personality in this world of like relentless reboots. I think the one-off is kind of holds a special place in my heart. Like that one-off that's great and it's just like left alone and not fucked with. You know, there's something really neat about that. But I noticed recently, I'm not a huge retro toy fan, but I noticed that Mask, the old toy line Mask, right?
I remember that.
Mobile Armored Strike Command, which was a very special toy line to me in the 80s because it was the last thing I collected as a young junior high kid that should have stopped playing with toys at that point. And I was like, Mask came out and I was like, nope, I got another year in me, you know? And I started collecting Mask in 6th grade instead of dating girls and all that kind of stuff. I told this story. But I noticed that, and it was always fascinating with me, especially with Hasbro, then Kenner, and then Hasbro taking over Kenner and all that kind of thing. especially with them, with their reboots and their heavy franchises like G.I. Joe and Transformers, that Mask was always kind of left on the sideline, aside from a few weird anomalies like bringing back Matt Tracker as a G.I. Joe figure. But for the most part, Mask was never resurrected in any form. And I always thought that was kind of neat. And questions abound as to why that was possible, because why weren't they cashing in? But now apparently this year they're bringing it back. And I was like, that's interesting, because that was kind of like one of the last vestiges of 80s things that didn't get reimagined. And it's actually pretty neat. The toys, they're bringing back the first 4 toys. They look great. They redid the action figure. They're more, they're kind of, they're totally reimagined, but they actually the vehicles look like they're maybe even the same molds, but the action figures are reimagined. So really kind of ornate, very posable. The masks, which are really helmets, look really cool, the way they articulated everything. But it's just one of those things where I was like, oh, that leaves me thinking, like, what would I like to see? I hope it goes well for them. Oh, I know that
you had the car and the truck, right?
I have.
You had the car for sure with the doors that go out. You had that for sure.
Yeah, Thunderhawk was like the Trans Am.
And I feel like you had the truck.
The truck was Rhino, like the semi truck.
Yeah, the semi
truck. That was Rhino. They're bringing that back.
Yeah, these look.
And Switchblade was the helicopter that turned into a plane. I had that, and then Condor was like the motorcycle, the green motorcycle that turned into like a little helicopter. Those are the 4 things they're bringing back, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures. They look great.
Initially, right? And they're kind of like hedging their bets. They're bringing back these first 4 things, seeing how it does, and then they're going to, do more. I guess more is in the offing if they feel like it's worth it. But it just got me, and I wish it well. I know that franchise means a lot to people. People are excited. That's cool. Got me to thinking, like, what would I like to see the return of? If I could pick one thing, and I'm always talking about TV and movies. So I'm going to do something a little different for the Dixer today and talk about music. And because it really does come down to one band for me, which people that really know me already know this. But this was a band that, listen, don't get me wrong. There's definitely probably 3 other bands, hip hop bands in particular, Tribe Called Quest, who we lost Phife Dawg, so they can never really come back in their original form. De La Soul, we lost Trugoy. Dave a couple of years ago, so they can never come back in their original form. And then, of course, MF Doom, who was like arguably the greatest rap lyricist of all time, he'll never return, right? So I sort of lament those 3, but there was a band in the 90s called the Sundays, who were an alternative music group, an English band. They released 3 albums between 90 and 97, went away and never came back, like to a legendary degree, like just stopped at the peak of their glory. Really. Really sought after band with a really sought after lead singer, one of the most beautiful voices ever, very melodic. And we're kind of charting, but we're, in Europe and in the United States, but we're really more known for sort of an alternative indie flavor. And 3 brilliant albums, and then just stopped. We're like, I think Harriet Wheeler, who's the lead singer, and her husband was, involved in the band. They stopped to have a family and just never came back. So they were the ones where I always do have that energy with almost everything. Was like, all right, cool. Like, I'll take another thing that I adore, like Calvin and Hobbes, right? When Bill Watterson stopped that comic strip, if Calvin and Hobbes came back tomorrow, part of me would be very excited, but I kind of can go to my grave knowing that we already got this amazing thing that would be hard to match. So let's leave it there. With the Sundays, it's like, wow, like that's the one thing where I would take the risk on them releasing a 4th album just because I can't help but know it would be wonderful. Like they wouldn't be jumping the shark if they came back. So for me, the return of something would just very simply be the Sundays, even one more album, like one more outing, just to see if they could do it, if they could match their flavor, but evolve a little bit. It's been since 97. I was in college at the time. It's a long time ago, So Cog, I'm going to go to you first. When you think about seeing the return of something, Or maybe you have multiple answers, or maybe you have that thing that you just know you don't want to see the return of because it already means too much and you don't want them to foul it up.
That's a good question. I like what you said in reference to like remembering something. I think I shared what you said about remembering something when, where you wanting a little bit more versus, them ruining it. And just my quick immediate thought was kind of like, how I love one of my favorite shows or series of all time is a show called The Wire. And I felt The Wire, even though I wanted more and more of it, ended perfectly and kind of poetically from a cyclical standpoint, right? And I was like, okay, that's actually good. Even though I would have want more, I don't get it. All right, cool. And then I think about the opposite, which is how addicted I was to Game of Thrones, right? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. And it was very intimidating. It was so many characters at first, but once it hit its stride, and I think for me, it was probably Red Wedding. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't, this show doesn't care about my feelings. Like it's doing stuff. So, and then obviously it overstayed its welcome. And then it definitely didn't end the way I would have liked it. So I was just like, But I'm going to take your question and your topic and flip it another way. And Colin will appreciate this. What I want to return is the old NBA. And I started to think about it. I've been watching a lot of podcasts. Like a lot of like professional players are now podcasting now, right? So I saw like, Magic Johnson and, they talk about the old, Lakers and Celtics rivalry and we hated each other and this, that, and the third. And they're talking about the players of today and like, All-Star Game is a joke. It is a complete joke. There is no competitive nature. There's no fight. I look at recently, what is it, the NHL and, was it Canada versus...
Oh, the Four Nations tournament.
Yes, the Four Nations tournament. And I was looking at these guys go at it.
Yeah, there were fights in those games, which is crazy because they're ostensibly All-Star games. So it's really weird. That was really weird. It was great. And that was the most watched, that Canada-US game was the most watched NHL game in like 20 years, apparently.
And I'm watching my timeline. Shout out to my Canadian brothers. They popping off. You know what I'm saying? They like, yeah, like I loved it. US Energy. I missed it. Like I come from that era where it was like, the bad boy Pistons. Yeah. You know what I mean? The Bulls in the rise of the 90s. Lakers versus Celtics, rough and tumble Knicks. You know what I mean? Like defense, man. And it's just like, what I also miss about that area was every team had its own individuality, right? Even Phoenix back then, they were up pace and stuff like that. Then you had the defensive squad. You even had Cleveland that would pass the ball around till the shot clock ends at everyone had a distinct style. And I think now, unfortunately, with the way analytics have taken over the game, and it's like, the 3-point shot is just the most effective shot. Just shoot threes. And everyone plays the same. So you got that. Then, I hate to say it, LeBron fans, I know I'm coming at you right now, but like, I'm just not from this era of, I can't win, so I'm going to go team up. And I'm going to get, me and two other amazing people are going to collude together and we can try to guarantee ourselves a championship, right? And I'm not saying it didn't happen at all. I do remember, Barkley at one time went to Houston and they were little, but most of the times these players were not in their prime. You know what I'm saying? And we're like, hey, 3 players in our prime, we're going to collude and get together and go on a team to try to win. And it just sucks. As a person like me who played basketball, was good at it, loved basketball, and I love the era of like the dominant big man in the center, the Hakeem Olajuwons, the David Robinsons, the Patrick Ewing. I remember when guards used to post up, the Penny Hardaways and stuff like that. Like there's an art to that. There's an art to the mid-range shot. Those were very skilled people who had a specific skill set that was effective and useful. And just to see that kind of go away. And then the last thing I would say that really bothers me to no end is like, they got this thing now called load management.
Yeah, this pisses me off, actually.
Bro, what are we doing? Like, you paid, like I don't know if you watched sports at all, but like, let's say you paid hard money to watch your favorite player. And you're I'm gonna buy a ticket. I'm gonna go to the game. This is my favorite player. Oh, he's not playing the game. Load management. We're gonna give him some rest. What are we doing?
That's tough.
You could be a marquee matchup with 2 players that you want to see on opposing sides, and they don't even play the game.
Neither one of them.
And to see the NBA attendance right now, the sales, how precipitous this drop has been from one of my favorite sports, it is just in the tank to the point now where it's like, I don't even watch I haven't watched basketball consistently for years now.
Wow.
I just can't get my heart to do it. The defense is not there. So for me, I don't know how they fix it, but like something has to get, the league's not going to exist like if it keeps on descending the way it is, it's not going to exist. And it's a shame because right now, like I think the tournament is going on more. Like you see the tremendous difference in the passion and the intensity in these college kids' games versus the pros. And
That's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame because I love the skill set at the highest level. And I'm just like, damn, what has happened, man? So, yeah, I need the old NBA to come back somehow.
They got to get rid of the 3-point line. I mean, you and I have talked about that in the past. Like, I think the 3-pointer, I think the ABA played around with it in the 60s, but it wasn't until the fall of 1979 that the 3-point shot was introduced to the NBA. The NBA existed for a long time without it.
That's amazing. I never knew that.
And you and I remember that we talked about this, Cog, when they moved the line in.
They moved the line in,
and that was in like the late 90s, I want to say. And that everyone was like, all right, no. And then they pushed it back. But to me, I'm like, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Like if the thing about it seems, because it is analytical.
Yeah.
Like the Saber Stats mentality seemed to get to basketball last, but now, but it arrived there. So like Saber Stats revolutionized baseball 30 years ago. And then it got to hockey, where analytics is fucking huge in hockey about possession and shot quality and all that. So like totally broke hockey, but in a good way. And then it got to football. And you have DVOA and all these like random stats that are just like totally deep. But in basketball, they realize like a specific shot that can be taken at any time is just more effective, even if you miss them more. And so they've broken the game.
Wow.
In my opinion, like the game is actually broken. And because what they're doing makes perfect sense, but it's diluting the quality of the product. And so they need to do something about it. So the answer is to either, you can't really push the 3-point line back anymore, because then you would remove like side shots. It would just be on like the top of, so I think you just get rid of it. Like that I wonder if that's going to be seriously considered. Like I certainly hear people talking about it. I don't know how I don't know how serious it is. Like you're seeing in the NFL meetings, like they're now trying to really ban the tush push, right?
Yeah, I see
that. That was talked about for years, but now they're really trying to do it. And so I wonder if this will just kind of begin a conversation where at the owners' meetings for the NBA in the years to come, when they look at a declining attendance, because people were saying about the All-Star game too. It's interesting. And I was watching footage of the All-Star game where didn't someone get like fined for like not participating properly in the All-Star game?
You're kidding me.
NBA players seem like prima donnas. I think a lot of this comes from the teams being small and players having inordinate amounts of power on those teams.
Yeah.
What I would see, I think the rosters and NBA teams should be bigger, although that would still, and then you would have but then you would be able to rest players more easily. It would probably exacerbate the problem you're discussing. But what was ironic about the All-Star game was, and I saw people writing about it in various outlets, was like it was diametrically opposed to what happened with the NHL All-Star game, which they inadvertently stumbled on this thing that they are no doubt going to make a yearly thing. And as I said about the All-Star game, the only thing that was missing, and I know it's a geopolitical thing, but it's like the fact that Russia wasn't one of those teams is insane.
Yeah.
That is weird.
And I understand that they're not even allowed to like participate in the Olympics right now and shit like that. But it felt a little weird where it's like, yeah, the US and Canada, definitely the two best teams. Sweden, always a strong team. Finland, great team. But, like, so you got to make a few different tweaks where maybe you have a world team in quotes or something. So you can, like, Ovechkin wasn't playing. The greatest goal scorer in the history of the game. So there were some little breaks to it, but they happened within each other's shadow, and everyone's like, holy shit, like, one league stumbled upon this amazing thing that actually makes because the NHL All-Star games suck too. Because it's such a violent sport. You can't play it right.
Right.
That's again why they were doing line brawl, like lining up for brawls at the beginning of the game.
Wow.
Which I love, the left wing's talking to the left wing, like, you want to do it? You want to do it? Okay. And then you just drop the gloves right when the puck's dropped. But I was like, wow, in an All-Star game?
Yeah.
So people were like really into it. And the American players were mega upset about getting booed in Canada and took that like super personally, all this. And then in the NBA, they're like barely trying, embarrassing themselves.
Complete opposite. And again, I just don't like that the superstar refuses to participate in even the skill stuff. Like I remember the days of like Larry Bird would be in the 3-point contest. Reggie Miller would be in the 3-point. Dominique Wilkins, Michael Jordan would be in the dunk contest. Like truly the best people would be competing. And I think what's happened is everyone's so concerned about their brand and image and not necessarily competing that has kind of changed the culture of it. It's pretty sad to see. So that's what
endorsements and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's just, I don't know how to fix it, but it just pains me to see my favorite sport now just relegated to an afterthought that I don't even really pay attention to anymore. So
I also think, and I don't want to be too I don't believe in over league control over teams to a great degree, but that Luka trade was so insane that I can't believe the NBA was like, no. Like which leagues do. The MLB I think does it the most, but like leagues are allowed to say like, no, we don't sanction this trade. And that was one of them where I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's not that you can't trade him. You can't trade him for that package.
Right.
Like you have to trade him for 4 first-round picks or something. Like you have to do something insane. Right. Yeah. And that pissed me off too, because I was like, there's some weird shit going on in the NBA.
I heard some underlying things potentially with that one too, which is kind of interesting. But that pissed
me off just as like from a competitive standpoint, where it's like I think the joke was Micah brought this up, which was there was like a video going around where NBA 2K25 or whatever wouldn't allow that trade to go through. Like if you tried to do it
with the algorithm of the game,
no, this trade is unfair until they updated the rosters themselves. So it's like so that pissed me off too. Yeah, the NBA. I feel kind of vindicated because I was never more than a casual NBA fan, but I do love the game of basketball. I think the game of basketball is fun to play. It's fun to watch. College basketball is awesome. I agree. Even college women's basketball is it's like so grimy and fucking tough. There's something about it that really feels old in some sense, in a good way. And so I'm not a huge NBA fan, but even 20 years ago, 15 years ago, as I'd casually watch the game, I'd be like, that I've said this many times, but I'm like, there's fouls all over the place. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, we were talking about this.
And there are like constant. I see reels constantly of like here's the traveling reel for this week.
Right.
And it's like, why are people allowed to do this? Like, I don't understand. Like, why is the game so broken? It's strange. It's similar to like in baseball, like not calling strikes and balls properly, like that when Angel Hernandez and all that stuff was happening. Like they did something about that really quickly.
Right.
So that they wouldn't be replaced completely by computers, which all umpiring should just be computer based, but whatever you want.
It might be going there. I like talking about professional sports with this conversation though, and sort of like a return, yearning for a return to a specific era in sports. Because Colin, I don't know. I think Colin and I were talking about this on Knockback, so I don't think you were there for this conversation, but I didn't know that much about basketball until my junior high kid started playing. And then Colin, who knows a little bit more about what's going on in the NBA, was, I was saying, we were talking back and forth, and it became apparent that how the kids are playing, they're modeling themselves, especially out here off the Sixers, right? They're all Sixers fans.
Yeah.
And the style of basketball with shooting threes, drawing fouls, no D, right? The whole thing, they're modeling themselves after what's going on in the NBA. So that's how these 14-year-olds are playing basketball.
Yes.
It's the same exact thing.
Yeah. And what's with the no defense? Like, especially now, like some parents that are paying attention should be telling their kids, like, there is an obvious way for you to become really good and get noticed and dominate by just playing defense.
Yeah.
They're not, because the way that the league is looking at it, again, they just want scoring up. Unfortunately, during the David Stern era and stuff like that, when we had those defensive games, which to me was still beautiful to watch because people were competing at the highest level, they were playing hard. But what they're looking at aesthetically, scoring's down. We need the ball going in the hoop more, and thus they're taking the removal of the hand checking and things that defensive players really took pride on and shutting down an offensive star. So that's what I said. And to your point, that even down to the AAUs, it's like all of that is trickling down now to 100%. The kids, and stuff as far as how the game's played. It just, to me, is just watered down. And the most unfortunate thing about it is that everyone looks the same now. Like the teams look, there's not those specific team styles that this team plays this way.
It's too sanitized.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. And what's funny too? The reffing with calling, especially with calling traveling. It's like they it's like it's really enabled, and I don't know if it's to speed up the game. I mean, I'll take a shot in the dark. You guys know much more about basketball. I'm learning vis-a-vis my not even 15-year-old. But here's the thing about basketball, and again, this may miss the mark widely, but because it's not, as you guys say, it's not really happening in college ball. But does this come down to the gambling industry as associated with the NBA? Could that have something to do with it? Not only the fast pace of games and the glamour of, these insane offensive, the final scores being so high and everything, but could that have, could the FanDuels of the world, and sorry, FanDuel, I know I just applied for a motion graphics job. I'm not talking necessarily bad about FanDuel, but
see what you gotta say.
Could that have something to do with it? I don't know. The thing is too, I mean, here's the thing with not only with sports, but with gambling. Here's the upside though, Cog. I know how much a Sixers ticket costs. So I'm not even saying anything about the Lakers or Knicks or huge market teams, right? You go to you can't get a Sixers ticket for less than $300, right? It's impossible. So will the one benefit be that the NBA lowers the cost of, you know what I mean? I couldn't believe, I know I was saying this to Colin recently, I couldn't believe the level of just like pyrotechnics and constant entertainment at a basketball game.
Oh yeah.
Constant.
It's insane.
It's insane. It's like the circus.
Yes. Good analogy. Good
comparison. Which I never knew, I hadn't been to a game in years.
Yes.
So just going back to Wells Fargo and seeing some Sixers games, it's like, you know what I mean? You see where the money's going.
Oh yeah.
And it's not and it seems like the purity of the game is getting lost and all that. So even as somebody who's new to basketball, I get it.
No, well said. Well said. Yeah, there's so much going on even between the commercial break, and it's like shifts. So it's like a circus shift. This comes out and that comes out. It's like it's so much going on. I was at a WNBA game not too long ago, and I was just like, wow, look at all the things that have happened during this quote unquote timeout. It's crazy. Not alone the halftime.
Yeah, it does. Somebody's gonna get lit on fire. I was really concerned. It was like a Kiss show. It was like a Kiss concert. It's just a random basketball game. It wasn't a playoff game. It was just like a random, I don't know, Celtics were in town or something,
But that was mine. I got my rant off.
I love it. I love it. Kyle, I'll stick with you for your take on this. Where do you go with this one?
I think this will touch you deep in your heart, Dig. I don't know, but because you had brought up TV shows, and it's not a show that can be brought back anymore because it's been too long, unfortunately, but that they could potentially reboot. And it's Jericho. I was completely obsessed with Jericho when I was in college and when I left. And it ran from 2006 to 2007, and then it was brought back again in 2008 and then canceled again. So it was canceled after its first season, and then it was canceled after an abbreviated second season. And I fucking loved it. I was totally into it. I was so crestfallen that it was canceled. And people might remember when Netflix started doing streaming in 2009, 2010, Jericho was like one of the most popular shows they had, and they were really close to bringing it back themselves. I don't know if you remember. I actually was part of reporting on that at IGN because it was discussed at WonderCon in San Francisco that year in like 2009. And but they just never ended up pulling the trigger on it, and instead it got like a continuation in comic book form, which I actually never read.
I never knew that.
Yeah, IDW.
Oh, that's interesting. It might be worth picking those up.
And so for people that don't know, Jericho is about a nuclear attack on the United States, basically, where 23 nuclear bombs are detonated in 23 cities at the same time, and about the intrigue, the political intrigue about it. And it deals with so many. It's very soap opera-ish. Skeet Ulrich is the main character in it.
Yeah. Poor man's Johnny Depp.
Right.
Looking at him right now. I was going to think that's what I was thinking.
But what's so funny is that Lenny James is in it, and he plays a character, Hawkins, who's like the fucking best character in it. He's like Lenny James. Really mysterious character, and he basically plays the same character later on in The Walking Dead, which is the funniest thing ever. Like it's the same character.
He really does.
Okay, you gave me context now. You helping me out. Okay,
he's a great actor, but that is the same character.
Yeah, it's the same character from your show.
Yeah, like it's literally the same character. As if they're in the same world. It's so funny. And there's a few other interesting people in it too. But it's basically Jericho is a small town in Kansas, and it's a fake town, but it's about a place in Kansas where they happen to be in like a specific place where they're unaffected by the fallout. And that ends up kind of becoming part of the intrigue or whatever. And it's about the military and like local municipalities fighting against each other, and EMPs go off. And is it like one of the cool threads in it is that the military is called home. So like you meet all these people who were like in Iraq like 2 weeks ago, and now like they're suddenly home, like dealing with all this crazy shit. There's a civil war and like a new American flag with all the lines going in the other direction.
That's
and, like,
right.
And,
I forgot about that.
And it's a really dope. I loved it, and I was so excited. So people might remember this, but there was this movement. The show was canceled after its first season finished airing in the spring of 2007, and the show ends with a reference to the World War II story about nuts, about like I don't remember the specific names involved in it, but there's like a story about someone being like offered a truce or like a surrender, and they like basically just like radio back like nuts, like kind of making fun of it, and then they fight or whatever. And so people sent CBS, which is the one that aired it, like hundreds of thousands of pounds of peanuts or some crazy shit like this.
About this.
And they like listened, and they brought it back for 7 more episodes, and then they just canceled it again. But it was like kind of a way for them to finish the story, because it did end on a cliffhanger. But yeah, that was what came to mind immediately when I saw the email. Was I would love, the story was special and it was interesting, and it's not something that's really dealt with in the way it was dealt with. And I would really be fascinated to know where it was going, because they really, you could tell the second season they were probably told like, we're not renewing you, and like you have enough time to get something done. And they did, and it moved so fast. But when it was moving really slow, I remember there was this one shot where like they were like getting power back and like figuring it out, and they were getting like these weird Chinese signals on there of like Chinese news feeds of like the map of the United States with all the bombs. And that's like, and there were these things online during that blogging era where people would like pause the show and there would be maps and like all these different documents, and like people, it was, and the coolest part of it was each one opened with a Morse code. Like each of them was real, and like and they would be, well, and they were like hints as to like the intrigue of the show. So it would seem like just incidental stuff, but there were all these cool things in it. It was a really interesting idea.
I gotta watch that again. That should be on Paramount Plus. I
assume so. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Kyle. That show, it was really big in scale and scope for the era. It's really kind of sad when you think about it, because it was like really ahead of its time and probably came out about 10 years too early, because that's a big show for network TV. Would have been perfect for subscription.
Yep.
Even if it just waited out and stayed the course with where it was, a Paramount Plus thing would have been so much more appropriate than just releasing it on CBS back in the day, on terrestrial cable, which is really what it was, just right at the shift.
Yeah.
Like right before the shift.
Yeah. It was a bad time. Like it was bad time. I agree. If this show would thrive on Apple TV or something.
Oh yeah.
And so it would be cool. Like, but you don't really need to revive Jericho. You could do your own sort of thing, but I do like the idea, because I don't want to spoil it for people, but what it ends up really being about, and like where the bombs come from and who's doing it and what's happening and why, it's fucking cool.
I forgot.
And quite dark. It's like really dark. And I remember our mom had it was years ago, I just remembered, as like a really canny observation where she's like, I think it's just too serious. Like there's something about it that's just too close to home and weird.
There isn't a lot of levity in it.
Like
it's heavy. It's definitely
that there's a show out right now or last year, which kind of reminded me a lot of it. Fallout.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I haven't watched. I haven't watched the Fallout series.
I haven't watched it yet.
The whole show basically revolved around who dropped the bombs, like Jericho.
That's so cool.
Also did. So it kind of reminded me of that.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that, because I don't really know Fallout lore very well, because I never played Fallout 1 and 2. I played Fallout 3 and obviously New Vegas, but they know by 3 that it's the Chinese, right? I mean, isn't that the whole? So like, but I guess you don't go into the show if you're just kind of a casual person. You wouldn't necessarily know, similar to The Last of Us. Yeah. And what's about to happen to everyone in the HBO show.
Okay. And in Jericho, the Chinese make it apparent really early that it's not them.
Right, exactly.
Like they send down news, like pamphlets and flyers.
Yeah, that's the cool shit too. Like they find like they find like all of these goods being dropped, and it's their Chinese flags on them and shit. Like they're helping us and stuff. It's all weird. It's super fucking weird. It's good.
Good answer, dude. I should have thought that you might think about that, but I forgot about Jericho. I don't even remember even what happened at a certain point, so I got to go back and watch that.
Wasn't there a deaf girl in it too?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was very progressive.
Shoshana Stern. Yeah, she was. She's like a protege, I think, of Martley Matlin, who was the other deaf actress that won a Oscar, I think, right? In the 90s for some role.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to throw out there. I did have an example of one that I don't want to come back, but that is coming back, which is Battlestar Galactica.
Is it coming back?
Yeah, they're apparently rebooting it. I mean, that was the word. That's been the word for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't it an anime? Didn't they make an anime or something of it? Or
that? Yeah, but I don't think
animated?
it's that. I think that like they're and obviously Battlestar Galactica is of itself the one we understand is a reboot. Yeah. So it's a little disingenuous to say like we don't want reboots of Battlestar Galactica. It's like we would have never gotten that awesome Battlestar Galactica, which was so much better than the original one, like in every fucking way. But yeah, I thought Peacock or someone was messing around with it, and
it would be theirs, yeah.
And it's a bummer because I actually think Battlestar Galactica is pretty perfect. And having just watched it a few years ago again for not when we watched it for Knockback, it's like it still holds up. It still looks great. Even the Cylons look great. Certainly the space battles and all that shit look awesome. But the Cylons at all, it's a little low budget, but it all holds up. It looks way better than fucking Star Trek or something like that from the 90s or something. So
I agree. Yeah. There's no camp.
Dude, when we were laughing so much watching Red Letter Media when they like show all they have like all the marks on the floor, like the tape in Next Generation, like all the little things, like it's so broken, like normal outlets with like regular
normal
plugs.
Outlets is
it's so funny. I love when they get really nerdy about Star Trek. It makes
normal outlets.
Like everything I know about Star Trek comes from Red Letter Media, and that's it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same thing. You know, anime is a great direction for Battlestar to go in. I don't even know if I thought about that. I mean, if you're going to reboot it again, well done anime though, not like low TV budget anime. It would have to be pretty great with a great vision with a really solid director. And then I could give it to Anno, see what he does. See if he gives it the Evangelion treatment. Make it weird and Lovecraftian. I don't know.
Peacock's gonna pull some bullshit where they're gonna make Lee Adama, like the guy that played Lee Adama, he's gonna be like James Olmos, and they're gonna wink and nod about it.
He was so great in that.
Fat Lee Adama. Awesome. That's still like one of my favorite IGN usernames. Like people that would like comment on posts when I worked there was Fat Lee Adama, because there's an arc in Battlestar Galactica where Lee Adama becomes fat for a little while. And I'm like, that is so fucking funny. I love that.
That's a great handle. I'll take it.
Did you guys watch Battlestar? Locke, did you watch it?
Yeah, I loved it. One of my favorite shows ever. Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. You're into sci-fi? Yeah. You would. I feel like you would probably love it.
It's good.
It's one of those weird gaps that I missed out on.
Yeah.
It's fairly manageable. I think it's only 4 seasons, and there's spinoffs too, or not spinoffs, like interstitials. There's like a couple of movies and shit like that you need to watch, and they're so good. Razor, oh my god,
they are good.
Oh, Razor's so good. Battlestar is excellent. Love it. It's right up Colin Moriarty's alley. Believe me, it's like very much a Colin Moriarty show. But the first 2 minutes, if you'll know or not, if you'll love it or not, I think.
Yeah, I kind of know from the beginning. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. And it took something Battlestar like early. I'm old. So I remember early Battlestar, like it was a little, I loved it as a kid, but it was very close to Star Wars. It was like, oh, this is TV Star Wars, They took when they rebooted Battlestar, they really took it away from that Star Wars formula and made it, I really feel like realized it the way it should have been always realized, even though I like the campy TV presentation. It was kind of neat. You had the Han Solo proxy in there, you had the Luke proxy, everything. But the reimagining is much more sophisticated.
It's the one, okay,
and unique, unto itself.
Yeah, highly recommended. I really do highly recommend it. It's not one of those things where I just like, you should watch it. I think it is one of the great shows.
It's good.
Nice.
One of the actors is also a huge gamer. I don't remember his name. He was when they crashed in season 1. One of the pilots. He plays Starkiller in the games, the Star Wars games.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's
cool. He also streams a lot. I don't remember he's
really?
Days Gone. The Days Gone guy. The Days Gone actor.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Why can't I remember his? I'm looking up.
I'm looking him up.
Yeah, he plays one of the Raptor pilots.
Yeah, exactly. Who goes crazy.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I know exactly who you're talking about. Oh my
name.
god, this fucking Wikipedia page is huge. Never mind. Why are Wikipedia? I love the old that website Something Awful back in the day used to make fun of like the Wikipedia pages where it would be like, here's a Wikipedia page for a real thing and it's 1,000 words. Here's a Wikipedia page for like the fake thing in that world and it's like 10,000 words. And I think they would do that specifically with Wikipedia, where it'd be like, here's the planet Mars, here's the planet Tatooine, and like the Tatooine Wikipedia page is fucking gigantic.
Yeah, that's strange.
Sam Witwer.
Witwer, yeah, that's it.
Witwer.
That's it.
Yeah,
yes,
I won't look up. Did you guys know I won't look up anything? I won't touch my computer monitor. I have to look up things on my phone because I'm afraid I'm going to shut the Zencast window down. I'm just like, I know I'm going to. So I just don't, because I get too OCD about closing windows and stuff. I'm just like, I can't. I will close it. Locke, I'm going over to you for this one, man. I'm really curious which direction you're going to go with this.
Sure. Well, immediately I was also thinking about movies and TV shows, but then I figured, well, we've basically gotten this a lot over the past few years, where franchises or properties came back, and it's never good. We got Indiana Jones back, which was atrocious. Star Wars, they basically ruined it. But it also happened with TV shows. I don't know. You guys probably know this. But they brought Full House back a couple of years ago.
Fuller House.
Fuller House, yeah, which was something. Not great, but they brought it back. They made a TV show about Lethal Weapon, too, not that long ago.
Wait a second. Did I know about this?
Wow.
I don't think I knew this.
Which
it's on Fox, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. The Lethal Weapon was okay, to be fair. It wasn't that bad.
Okay.
But it also was nothing like the movies. They brought back Beverly Hills 90210 at some point a decade ago.
Yeah, that was. I didn't even bother with that. And I'm a big original fan of 90210. So
me too.
That was something as well. And of course, right now they're bringing back Dexter. I don't know if you guys saw Dexter back in the day.
I saw the first 4 seasons or so. I actually really like it.
Saw the best one.
But I never got further than that. There's like all sorts of lore and shit I don't even know about.
It's so funny because the first 4 seasons are notoriously awesome, and then everything that happens afterwards is not great.
It's a great idea, but it has to wrap up like just inherently. It's very similar to Breaking Bad, where like this has to have a conclusion. Like this can't go on like this. You can't keep just getting away with it. Yeah.
Exactly. But there was also one example that did it great, that did it awesome, that did it fantastic, and I just watched it all a couple of weeks ago. Which was a Karate Kid from the 1984, of course, the movie, and then the show they made off of it, Cobra Kai. Which focused on Johnny Lawrence, the villain, which was such a cool idea, and they did it so great. I loved Cobra Kai. I thought it was such a fun show. It was so wholesome but funny, and it focused on the villain. It gave him a huge redemption arc, but also the new generation, like the kids. Normally, when they focus in these new things, like in Star Wars or Indiana Jones, when they focus on the kids, it's awful. But here, they did a great job. The kids were all great actors. Great show, fantastic ending. But in the ending, in the final episode, of course.
Dude, now hold on. I didn't see that. I love the show. I didn't see the ending yet, so we won't spoil it.
Of course. I'm not going to spoil it.
This is the new Dagan who wouldn't mind like 2 weeks ago, but I'm trying to be.
Of course, I wasn't going to spoil it. But in the last episode, the creators of the show make a cameo, which is what I was getting at. And in their cameo, they're talking about reviving another property. They're just in a shot. They're talking in a bar. There are no characters. They have no names. They're just 2 random people in the background talking about reviving something else. And they're talking about reviving Back to the Future and focusing on Biff and making Biff the main character and giving him a little bit of a redemption.
What's that guy's name that owns Back to the Future? He's really disciplined, right, about not doing it, right? Or
Zemeckis?
Zemeckis, yeah. I guess he's like, yeah, right. That's right.
Yeah, so it's never going to happen, exactly like you said. He doesn't want it to happen unless he dies soon. Could happen.
Stand up there.
And then maybe they'll do this. If anyone would do it, I would pick them. They did such a great job with this property. I didn't really care about Karate Kid. I thought it was fine. But the show is amazing. I would recommend it to everyone. It's such a fun, wholesome show. But that would be my easy answer, and I didn't want to give an easy answer. So for me personally, I was thinking about what I would love to see return are MMOs, but hardcore MMOs. When I grew up playing Ultima Online or EverQuest or Dark Age of Camelot. And in those games, you were dropped into a world and that was it. Go figure it out. Go do your thing. And there were no guides. You didn't know what to do. You just had to figure it out with your friends, which was so awesome. But then came World of Warcraft, of course, in 2004, which became the new template. And back when it released, it was heaven. I remember playing World of Warcraft in 2004, and it was the best thing ever. I played with my high school friends. I played with everybody all over the world. It was so great. It was such a great game. But then it became the template, and every single MMO after World of Warcraft tried to mirror it, but never succeeded in surpassing it. Now, these days we do get MMOs, but they're more like shooter hybrids like Destiny or Fallout 76, or even Fortnite maybe is a little bit MMO-like because you get to keep your skins and stuff.
Oh, sure.
But there are no more true MMO RPGs, not really anymore, where the community has to figure it out and you just have to play it to figure it out, basically. Star Wars Galaxies tried, but didn't really have a story. I think Amazon released New World a couple of years ago, where they tried, but again, it didn't really work. BioWare released Star Wars: The Old Republic, which was more story focused. But the problem with all these new MMOs is that they all focus on the end game and not on the journey. I remember when I was playing those old MMOs like EverQuest or Dark Age of Camelot or World of Warcraft at the beginning, everyone felt unique and distinct. Like, this guy had this sword, or this guy did this quest and got this reward, and nobody else on the server had that. So you actually knew the people on the server. You knew this guy did this and this guy did that, and I can buy gold from this guy and I can get this item from this guy. Everybody knew each other and became like an actual world of people.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which was really cool. But now these days, whenever a new MMO releases or some game like this releases, like they did it with RuneScape recently too, it's just a race to the end game. So it's just a race to complete the game, and then whatever. I don't really get what people do after the end game. Even in Diablo too, they just released Diablo 4 a couple of years ago. Same thing, race to the end game. Don't care about the story, just end game. And that makes me so sad because I remember those days from like 20 years ago when everybody was working together, figuring things out. There were no guides online. The only game in the last 20 years that had that same feeling for me was DayZ when it came out.
I remember that.
When it was a mod still for Arma. It wasn't really a game back then. But when DayZ released, nobody knew what the hell they were supposed to do. So people were just roaming the countryside trying to get away from the zombies. Like you find some weird thing and you can poison people or tie them up or whatever. So many fun moments. And I really miss that in games or in online games these days. Steam is filled with early access indie MMOs. But there's never been a big company like Blizzard, for instance, who pushed it forward anymore. And that makes World of Warcraft still be the template. I remember a couple of years ago, Blizzard was developing a new MMO called Titan, but then they canceled it, and that then became Overwatch. But I really miss the days of having to figure things out on your own in MMOs. So I would love to see a return to that. And it doesn't seem like so impossible. It doesn't seem unrealistic for something like that to return, I think. But it just needs a big company to take the plunge. Amazon almost did it, but they couldn't realize their vision, I guess. But I would love that.
Why won't they do that? Is that, we talk about this a lot, Locke, and I'm on the same wavelength as you. Like, give me a cryptic game that I have to figure out, you know, and especially with a game like that where you feel like, we were just talking about this on Final Fantasy V on our knockback episode, you know, where it's a quest anyway, so it should feel like a journey, right? And it should feel like, you know, discovery, and also not to say nothing of squeezing all the value out of a game rather than rushing from A to Z. But why do you think that is? You just think that people don't want to invest the time, or that, I mean, you guys would know a lot more about this, but as an old gamer, I often hear, even by proxy, like, people don't want games as hard as they used to be. You know, the difficulty is just too high, then it's not enjoyable. They have other things to do. Maybe it's that people are half in their smartphone while they're playing, so that you can't be that invested. What is it with that?
Yeah, I was just having this conversation with Maddie. We were talking about it. And I just think it's engagement, and the fact that, you know, a lot of companies are overly concerned at, you know, the segment at where someone drops the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I know, Colin, you've talked about in terms of like achievements and trophy and completion rates. right? There's a moment, even some of the best games in the world, people are not even completing. They're not, they're stopping very early, and these like basic achievements. Hey, just pass this level or get to this.
Yeah, I
love
when it's like Kago, it's like beat the first level and then it's like 92%. And I'm like, so you lost 8% of players before the end of the first stage. This says it all. I think you're absolutely right. Sorry to interrupt.
Wow.
Yeah, no, literally that's it. And I think that's what's happening. And I think that's when me and Matt had a philosophical discussion about, this whole co-pilot initiative and stuff like that. And I said, look, I get it. From a purist standpoint, I come from the lock school. Like, I like the idea of, let's figure this out. What's going on? We're communicating together. There's no guide currently that exists. And, it's truly a pure thing, right? And it feels earned. And you're like, man, I think, and Maddie agrees with, like, we love the idea of like the challenge forming you as a gamer, almost like, you're developing a skill set. And I think it's a muscle that is not being nurtured because people are so quick to quit. And we have to be honest, the thing that's probably the saddest thing is like in the age of the phone and TikTok, YouTube, this is taking over where people will just sit there and watch video. I caught myself being in the endless loop of where the algorithm takes me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, damn, I spent an hour. I didn't even game.
That's me on YouTube, dude. I was saying this to Chris the other day. I'm like, I don't even search for things on YouTube. Like, I just want
it
knows.
It knows.
Yeah. It'd be like, yep, he likes this. It's like that. And we're going to keep feeding him one video to the next.
Just
and these kids even worse with the TikTok stuff. It's instantaneous. So I think sadly for us, the way I correlate it is that we're the dinosaurs. We're not the majority anymore. Yeah. And they have to figure out a way to get these kids to continue to engage. And if it's help, you know what I'm saying? Like, or that's what they're doing, kind of thing. It's an interesting shift right now.
Well, there are some games that still do it right, I would say, like Baldur's Gate 3 or now Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where Baldur's Gate 3 especially, which sold incredibly well, which is weird for a game like that, because that shouldn't sell well, but everybody loved it so much that it did sell well. But that's a game where you have to figure things out on your own. Well, maybe not anymore with all the guides out now, but when it released, that's a game where you have to figure things out. It like you said, Cog, it gives you something that no other medium can. Yes. When you watch a movie, it's all passive, but when you play a game, you put something in, you get something back in return. You feel like you completed something.
Yeah, bro. And me and you are KCD guys. Like, I was struggling. Like, man, my combat sucks, and I can't beat anybody with this. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make potions. I'm gonna poison my sword, and I found a way, right? And then when you overcome that thing, it's one of the best feelings in gaming, right? It's like, man, this is so cool. So yeah, I get it, man. It seems to be unfortunately a lost art right now, and we have these rare occasions where like an Elden Ring pops or Baldur's Gate pop, because I think what's happening is in defense of your argument, I think what's happening is be that we don't see them anymore. When they do come and they're so well done, it is getting a little inswell, like, oh, wow, this is different. We're not doing the safe cookie cutter thing that everyone else is doing, kind of.
Smart. Yeah. So it's a trend, it could trend back with the right inspiration. Yeah. Right. With the right property, the right game that does it the right way. And then
there's a pocket for any kind of game. So I think it's just a matter of don't you think we are? I mean, I've said this many times, but like, we are in an era now. It actually really pissed me off because speaking of Larian, it was the dude from Larian who said something about like
single player.
Yeah, about like games just need to be good, and I'm like, bullshit. Yes. What a bunch of fucking bullshit. It's easy for you to say games just have to be good. That was true 20 years ago. That's not true anymore. And because good games are being ignored left, right, and center on a constant basis.
Is that just the quantity?
Yeah, it's just too many games. There's just too many. There's just too many. The reality is that there are these really amazing games for everyone that fill these specific niches, like to such a permutative degree that there is something for everyone, but you can't sustain games on that model, unfortunately. Like, you can't subdivide to such a degree that you're like, I'm catering to this dude who likes this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing. And like, that shit exists, but it sells 1,000 copies and you'd love it, but no one else is really going to love it. And I think a lot of games get caught in that trap because there's just also it's like people are just playing old games.
Yeah, playing old ones. Yeah.
70% of game time, I think, on Steam is on, what was it? It was set on 6 years, games 6 years or older.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just because there's things that those people already like.
Well, I think there are a lot of games as a service, and then there's the good sales. People play legacy content. I think that you have to be pretty crazy to be able to keep up with games. I think today.
How do you guys do it?
I don't. I mean, I play. I pick and choose what I play. There was an era. I mean, I've reflected on this so many times. People have heard me say it, but it's like, and people will remember if they were on PS3. There were months, weeks where nothing would come out.
Yeah,
like not physically, not digitally. It allowed, and then there would be a week where there's just like this random digital game. Like you could play pretty much everything if you were really engaged. You might not be able to beat everything. You might not like. You certainly weren't going to like everything, but that. We were able to review everything for years, like pretty much everything. We would review anything. And then at some point, it's like you have to pick and choose. And I think that that became true as a consumer as well. Like that game, Atom Fall, is about to come out. And that's like I'm really looking forward to that game. It's getting pretty good reviews, but that's the first of a fucking million releases that are going to be on top of each other. Whether, Indiana Jones is coming soon, Doom is coming soon, and so on and so forth.
Just released yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, got that.
So it's Death Stranding 2 in June.
Mm-hmm.
These games are all going to start piling up on each other.
Absolutely.
So I think that it's already kind of a fact of life. I always just wonder. It's like I must be in the top 1% of people that play video games time wise, right? Like 40 hours a week is probably. When you see the statistics where it's like average PS4 owner over the lifetime of the console spent $600. It's like, well, I spend $600 in half a year probably on PS5,
okay.
Yeah.
So therefore you can kind of garner that I'm, people like us and I'm like, I can't keep up with everything. So what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's more likely than not that you're playing Fortnite or Roblox than you are playing a single player game. The biggest single player game in the list every month on PSN and engagement charts is always the biggest game on PS Plus. So it's so right now it's High on Life.
Right.
Because that's free. Okay. So even then, it's not. Helldivers isn't even in that top 10 list anymore.
Oh, wow. Really?
Wow.
What happened? All of a sudden, people aren't interested.
Well, no, people like it. Hundreds of thousands of people are playing it. The point is that engagement. What was it? What the stats were in the last financials? It's like half of all engagement on PS5 is 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Is just with 10 games.
Yeah, it does make sense from the people that I know that are heavy into PS5.
Yeah, Fortnite, and it's totally cool if that's what you want to do. I just can't believe people play games like that. Like, it's still MMO people were the first people I met where I'm like, what are you doing? Like how many? Because it used to be a thing where it'd be like, oh yeah, I spent 50 or 60 hours with a game, and that was a lot of hours, or maybe 100 hours if you're playing some crazy single player role playing game that required a lot out of you. But those were the first people I encountered, and I wasn't a PC person, really, a PC gamer, where it's like you're playing these games, and then they'd migrate over with Final Fantasy 11, and Phantasy Star Online was really the first one on Dreamcast. And I'm like, yeah, I don't get it. And now that's been taken to like the nth degree, where people just play the same thing over and over and over, and I do not. It doesn't compute because the it's cool. Get whatever you get out of it. I don't give a shit. But for me, it's like I like meaty experiences that I stick with, but I need a churn of them. You need to constantly move on to the next one. And so that a person's like, I'm booting up Fortnite again for the 8th year or something. I'm like, what?
You have to put yourself out there to try new shit. I mean, what you guys are saying is so troubling to me because this is news to me. The saturation problem, like you guys are saying, like oftentimes a gamer is getting an hour into a game and giving it up. And that's got to be a saturation problem because as soon as somebody experiences a game, no matter what they paid for it, by the way, and it's not a perfect 10, they're just like, fuck this. I'm going to look for my perfect 10 because there's so many games out there. So they're looking for, you know what I mean? They could choose to gloss over, even though, which is weird. Oftentimes they already spent the money or they spent the cash, the scratch for the subscription. You know what I mean? That saturation problem seems to be the heart of it because they know they got the pick of the litter when it comes to spending their time with something rather than giving something a fighting chance, beyond getting 30 minutes into an experience.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucked.
Yes, it was so many things fighting for your time, right? And like you said, people are making business decisions. The saturation of games, there's so many out there. And then in the MMO space, it's listen, I'm extremely guilty because I'm a Destiny player, right? So, when I took Destiny out of my life full time, probably for the last 2 or 3 months, and I see how much more productive I am as a gamer. Like I've finished so many more things as a result because I know what that is. It's literally a college course every day. You got your dailies, your weeklies, your monthlies, the raid, the this, the that, the dungeon. You can live in these games, and they're designed that way to keep you in this ecosystem. So it's tough for any new game out trying to fight for your time. And to get you to just boot this up and to try this thing, it's really tough. And thus we see the engagement and the completion rates the way they are, and people go right back to the other stuff.
I got to say, Cog, too, I don't think it can be overstated that when a game like Destiny sheds a player, that player has a propensity to find a game like Destiny. So even when even when these games as a service are shedding players to another game as a service that's also going to monopolize their time. They're just on a different one now.
Welcome, Marvel Rivals.
Right,
like you go right into I call them with the black hole, the Sinister Six games. It's the same type. You now they've lost that person to another type of that game. Just now, with a different.
That's why PlayStation wants in on this space so bad. That's why I say over and over again, it's like it's essential that they figure it out because this is how people are playing games. No matter how badly we want Uncharted 4 or something to be like the most popular game right now, or whatever new single player game. It's like Death Stranding will be a popular game on PlayStation 5, but it will quickly fall off that chart. And these other games will still be there. All of them.
Yes. And I think as gamers, unfortunately for us sometimes, as much as we love that other stuff and the quality, the purity of it, we do romanticize versus what the data is telling us. The data is saying something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's absolutely true.
That's it.
It goes
as really three really tuned in gamers, though. Don't you guys get trouble that what you could be missing out on? Because if you don't, how some of the stuff must get so glossed over because if you're not hearing it from another entity or another source, right? How many things are just getting missed that you would enjoy?
It's constantly happening because I encounter games all the time where I'm like, this game is awesome. When I was playing like the game Turbo Overkill recently, the boomer shooter, like that's not a popular game, or Trepang 2 or whatever. It's like these games. There was a bunch of 2D games last year, or over the last 2 years, like Bat Boy and a few others where it's like, dude, no one is playing this. How is no one playing this?
No,
and I've remarked them a billion times. It's like, it is a time and place thing. It's very similar to what we were saying about Jericho. It's like, damn, Bat Boy on Xbox Live in 2009 would have sold fucking 2 million copies. But now it's just like, no one gives a shit.
I feel bad for the developers. I really do.
I literally do. Yeah, all the time. There's so many gems out there, and it's like, man, how did I miss out on this? And with Locke, I was so happy that KCD is one of the ones I'm so proud of because I'm like, I was there. I remember this. Wow, this actually made it through. You know what I'm saying? And now look how I'm so proud of them because I was there from the beginning. But there's so many games like that just don't even get a shot. And they're amazing. I think I'm more satiated in the AA and the indie space lately because you see the creativity and you see what's going on. But unfortunately, they got to fight for that screen space, that marketplace, spot. It's tough.
Well, I try to put
that word of mouth.
I try to put my money where my mouth. It's like
same.
I am in a advantageous position. There's no doubt financially, like I can afford it. I know a lot of people can't, but like when I see a game that I'm interested in, and I just want to send a signal, and I usually get to them, I just buy it. And I try to make a point to just buy it at full cost. It's like it's the only thing you can do. Because I'm not big enough, obviously, but even like a big YouTuber or something playing one of these games is just not enough anymore. It's just too difficult out there. So you really got to put your money where your mouth is, in my opinion.
Yeah. Speak with that old wallet.
That's all they care about. And that's all they should care about. That's reality. Yeah. And so it doesn't always work out. And I think people's expectations are also out of whack. Like when Ubisoft sold 1 million copies or whatever of Prince of Persia, that Metroidvania one or whatever, I'm like, that's so good, dude. What do you want? What do you want? You got
that game was amazing, by the way.
Oh, the Lost Crown. Yeah, it was great.
It was excellent.
Yeah, I loved it. So much fun. Did you get it on? What did you get on PS Plus?
No, I think I got that on Switch.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that was a Switch one for me.
Cool. Yeah. So, and we'll see how games do on Switch too, and what the ecosystem looks like there. They're so dependent on their own games in a way that no one else is. Mm-hmm. So a lot of interesting stuff going on. But you can't prevail against the inevitability of all of this stuff. That's why I just say, like, yeah, these games as a service Concord's not for me, but I get it. Like you look at these numbers and you're just like, Jesus Christ, we are fucked. You know,
just want one.
Yeah, we just need a few things in there.
Yeah,
and you'll be right as rain. They print money, those games. So, but I'll continue with my single player stuff, and that people are. I do think these games will always exist. Single player games there'll always be a place for them. It's not like it's going to go away. I just think it's going to be feast or famine for a lot of developers.
Yeah, that's well said. I didn't realize the game I'm looking forward to the most is coming in that Death Stranding 2 is coming in June.
Mm-hmm.
On the beach.
I didn't even know that.
June 26th.
Mm-hmm. On the beach.
It's a lot to look forward to. Well, listen, I'm satisfied. I've had the orgasm version of my topic. I don't know. That was weird and gross.
Jesus Christ. I don't want to hear you say that word. It's not a word I want to
hear. I don't want to hear myself say that. This is weird. I made it weird. I'm going to go around and say goodbyes. Cog, I'll stay with you, my friend. It's always great having you on the show.
Always, man.
Love talking with you.
Yeah, it felt like a quick turnaround. Got to see you again, and I'm happy, excited for the weekend. I got my new whip now. I'm happy. I'm driving around, looking for excuses to drive.
Tell me about the new whip. Wait a second.
Yeah, a little Rover. I'm in my pocket. Disco Sport. I like the Disco Sport right now. Nice. It's my baby. So yeah, man, I got just some plans and just to go out and see some people, and I'm excited. Everything is the techie in me. There's got everything's all computerized now, so I'm like messing with all the doodads. And I will say shout out to Android Auto. I've been very utilizing that in my dash. Actually,
that's cool.
Very effective. I actually like it a lot. But yeah, just gonna see some people and then play some games. Got a lot of games lined up. Obviously, Adamfall is one of them.
Yeah, I was thinking about. They have a 2-day early access period, and I'm like,
No.
I'm not going to do it. I don't think
you're going to do it. You're going to bend the knee.
It looks pretty good. I might, depending on where I am. Yeah.
Maddie really liked it. He just put out.
Maddie put a video.
Yeah, while we were recording, he just messaged me that it's great. I'll love it. So yeah.
It's been on. It's actually. I actually picked it in the Metacritic game this year too. So I did believe in it. But
nice.
It looks pretty cool. I like the British setting. It's just different. I'm sick of all the American settings for these games.
Yeah, when I saw that, what is it? The classic, what is it? British telephone.
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, this is
that's
different.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm gonna check that out. Probably touch a little Assassin's Creed for a little bit, but no, lock those. All hands on deck. I got to get KCD going and advancing, and then hopefully some things planned with some other LSM fam later. So that's what I got going on.
Nice. Is it me or the weekend's going super fast?
Bro, it's not enough hours in a day.
It's like ridiculous. It's going to be Monday morning, like in 3 minutes. It's like, what the fuck? We're for context, it's Friday at 4 right now. Yeah. It goes so quick. Right. And I mean, the weeks go quick in general, but the weekends are just like,
you're almost a quarter of the way through the year.
It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 2025. Locke, I'm going to go to you next, my friend. Holding it down out there.
It's still alive. Yeah.
My favorite Belgie.
Is that racist?
Look, we already got in trouble.
That's okay. No, I had a great time. Thank you for having me. It was so much fun. Always nice to see you guys. Always nice to talk with you guys. I had a great time. I think the Russians won't invade this weekend, so I'll
you should be okay. I think
I'll be okay. Yeah, at least until Monday.
Wait, just give me some geography here. Hold on, I'm going to bring up a map. Isn't Poland closer? Don't you have a buffer?
The whole our whole continent fits in the state of Texas. That's how. So I think if you go from the west to the east in Texas, you'll be in the Ukraine or Russia.
See,
I could be wrong, but that's what someone.
No, I think you're probably right. That's a stark reminder for Americans, just insofar as scale, right? Like,
stark reminder for Europeans when they talk about the United States like they understand it.
Well.
You might be in trouble. I'm glad you're in the clear so far, though.
So far. And otherwise, I'll just speak Russian. I'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
So we'll see. Yeah.
You're far away. They'd have to go through so many other countries first. So
yeah,
you'll be all right.
Yeah. What's going on? My friend now, does this ring true to any of you guys? My friend at work was just telling me he's Russian, but he's been here for many years. But he was saying now the Russians have an emblem, a mysterious emblem that they're using. It's like a letter Z, but nobody knows what it means.
Oh no, the Z. Yeah, the Z was like it's. They've been using that since the beginning of the invasion. They were painting it on like they're painting it on like their Jeeps and stuff like that and stuff. I think it. I read something about it, but I don't remember what it means. Something.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just like, what? I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, they are.
So, sounds frightening.
They're an interesting people. We have a clearly Eastern European family that we're friendly with in our neighborhood that we see, and we when you speak to them, say hello. They are obviously like Russian or something like that. But after the invasion, they put up a Ukrainian flag outside their house, but then I was like, okay, so are you Ukrainian or are you putting this up as a Russian or are you something else because I'm not sophisticated enough to be able to garner it from your, and I want to ask them so bad, like, what are you? But you can't ask people that. Yeah. You're not allowed.
That's a
I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm just curious. Like, are you Russian? Are you Ukrainian? Like, what are you? Are you Georgian?
Georgian.
Moldovan?
I have a Georgian neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
My
the guy.
Georgian neighbor has the palm trees.
That palm tree. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Very good.
The palm tree guy. There's got to be a workaround, like a way to bring it out without directly asking. How can you do it? Let's think. What do you say?
The beep was funny.
What's your favorite food? What's your favorite dish from your neck of the woods?
And then they say pierogi or something, and then you get you throw it off. What does it mean?
All right, fair enough. Well, Kyle, let's stick with you for goodbyes and your Ukrainian neighbors and possible Ukrainian.
Yeah, I don't know what they are. There are more Ukrainian flags than Russian flags in my neighborhood right now. Or I'm sorry, not Russian, American. There'll be no Russian flags. Then American flags. Would there be a Russian flag? No, like I don't think anyone would fly.
No,
a Russian
I
flag.
haven't seen that yet.
This weekend, no plans. Just going to be playing games and hanging out. Go to dinner tonight. I'm going to go for a walk after this. I'm doing 6 miles a day, like I've said, and I've been enjoying that. So,
nice.
Just scooting around.
How far is your run?
6 miles.
6 mile run?
The 6 mile, it's a walk. Yeah.
Oh, you just walk.
Yeah.
Okay.
15 miles an hour or it was, that's not, it's 15. Yeah. No, 15 minutes per mile rather. So
yeah,
it takes about an hour and a half to do.
Yeah, that's nice.
But I'm just enjoying the weather because it's not, this is not, I'm sure my neighbors are like, what the fuck is this dude doing? But I'm like, no, this is kind of like what I do in my own house. Like I do, but I'm like, it's nice out and it's just not going to be nice out for much longer.
Yeah. Take advantage.
So I'm just enjoying the sunlight. And as I've been reflecting, I've just been enjoying watching the flowers and the trees come to life over time and just the green starting to pop a little bit. And,
I know it's starting to tease us out there a little bit.
Nice.
It's good.
And we got a good rain yesterday, so it should be sprouting out there today, I assume.
Yeah. Be mowing the lawns again soon.
Yeah, my lawn needs to be mowed already. My lawn, because I have Dr. Vaughn, shout out to him. He does my lawn. And he does me and my neighbor across the street, and our lawns are roaring back right now. Everyone else's shit is like still dead, and our shit is just like green and lush. And he doesn't advertise. Like, you know how the people put little stakes in, and it's like, and it's like, this is Virginia green or whatever. And he doesn't do any of that shit. It's like it's word of mouth because people ask like, what is going on with your lawn? And I've turned multiple people on to them because of that. Like, who does your lawn?
Lets the grass speak for itself.
Yeah, the grass speaks for itself. I'm very proud of my lawn. Very proud of
it. Yeah, I got to go fix one of the kids' bathroom sinks, which is probably a 4-minute job for the average person. It's going to take me hours. I just know it. And I know it's going to be, you know what the other thing is? It's a project where it's going to be at least 2 trips to Lowe's or Home Depot. Like I'm never going to get anything on the first trip, everything on the first trip. There's always the second trip. So you just got to tell yourself going in not to get frustrated. It's going to be a whole thing back and forth, possible Harbor Freight stop off. You just got to brace that's my night. 5-minute job for, let's say, my dad, for instance. He'd have it done probably with what he has lying around the house. He would just MacGyver it. Right?
What's the problem?
Yeah. The sink literally, do you guys know, like it's like a double vanity, but sometimes the sink sits on the countertop with like a lip. And I guess I never even realized this before it happened, but sometimes the sink is adhered to the bottom of that vanity. So my daughter was doing something in the bathroom last night and the sink literally fell out of the vanity, like became unglued. So Yeah, and he's like, just leave it. And I'm like, you can't leave it. It's leaning on all the pipes. Like, at least I know that. Thank God. You know what I mean? So I'm there with my son taking out 11 o'clock at night. We tried to take the sink out and put it in the tub. And I was like, all right, after work, after the pod, that's going to be Friday night.
Sounds great.
For the Dagster, a.k.a. the Dadster.
There you go.
Godspeed.
Yeah. This is my life. And it sucks. But anyway, all right, my friend.
Fair enough.
Listen, we'll start making our way out of here. Patreon.com/laststandmedia for early ad-free access. As always, laststandmedia.store has the merch. For Locke, Cog, and Kyle, I'm Dagster Moriarty saying thank you out there for joining us. You're appreciated. We love you. We'll see you next week. The weeks are going quick, man. If we mark time by doing episodes of Constellation, it feels like we're doing it every other day. Now, this might be some old man energy, but that's what it feels like to me.
But really, it's every week.
It's once a week. Let's not get greedy. That's it. You can go listen to your second favorite podcast. Until next time, and get out. Peace.
Bye. Ooh, that was creepy. Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.